Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Nerd Rage Gaming. My name is Dan Hugar. I am clearly not at Nerd Rage Gaming, but I am here with you tonight with Brian DeVeza because we've got some cool Pokemon going on. So, Brian, how are you doing, man?
I've been good. It's exciting to be back with you now, and we can finally put, faces and names together
Right.
with our new work from home setup. So we're very excited to be debuting this week.
Listen, I've always been told I have the face made for the radio, so I'm very
Yeah.
excited to put that to the test today.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
Brian, as people can see, they can see us. We are
Yes.
not clearly in a game store, as Nerd Rage
Yes.
does not include a bed and or Kirby plushie. So tell the people a little bit about what the system is now and how we're doing this.
Yeah, so we're gonna try to do this from home, just so because new father Dan Hugar would like to still
Yes.
participate, but can't always make it out here. So
Yes.
it'll be nice being able to show our faces every once in a while, and also just bring our normal broadcasts here to everybody else still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's exciting. I mean, to be honest, I love being in person, but having the opportunity with my lovely son who's upstairs crying for more milk, just to be able to still be home with him and play some Pokemon or at least talk about Pokemon, it's a good deal.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
today is an introduction. It is Prismatic Evolution format because we have the first Prismatic Evolution regional coming up on Saturday. And Brian, it's kind of cool, man. One of the
Yeah.
first regionals in Mexico in recent history, too.
Yeah, I know a lot of people are really excited for it. A lot of people are excited to travel there, see the area and play new format. I mean, Badu has kind of been like the sleeper, like everybody's worried about how this is going to terrorize the format, so it's going to be great to see how Badu does in its debut regional tournament.
Yes, and I think it is going to be, I hesitate to say a terror because I think it's actually really good and really healthy for
Yes.
what's going on with the format
Oh,
because
absolutely.
it forces everything to slow down. So I would kind of agree. I do think it's going to be a big portion. So Brian, let me ask, what percentage of the format do you think will have Buddy? Because we saw some
Mm,
crazy City League stuff in the past.
yeah. I would think that most of the top decks are going to be running at least one copy of Badu. I
Okay.
think it's kind of a stretch to say, because there's been a lot of overhyped archetypes going into their debut tournaments. Like I like to think of like Dragapult, or like Charizard EX. A lot of those decks kind of took a little bit to kind of get going, but I feel like Badu is going to be like really good. It's going to be in the top tables pretty much straight out of the gate.
So we're talking 51% in decks in day two have a Badu.
I would think so. Yeah, close to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm actually not going to argue.
Yeah.
I would agree. Do I think overall every deck's going to include Badu? No. It's probably still
No.
going to be in the 30, 40, whatever percent of decks. But I agree. I think day two conversion rate of that card is going to be insane because it does
Yeah.
change so many decks' game plans.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't think it's really going to. I don't know if you're going to really see the use of it kind of show it's like not in the numbers, but I think just the threat of it is going to make itself known.
And I think
Yeah,
that's such a really interesting differentiation
yeah,
because we've seen this before with Seismitoad EX, with other kind of item locking, supporter locking, stuff like that cards in the past, where it's not even so much that every deck plays it or it's a giant portion of the meta, but the simple fact that it exists and would force you to have to build your deck in a certain way completely changes the format.
yeah, definitely. And it seems like we're going to be getting started soon with our game one. Ooh, and we
Yes,
have
indeed.
Adam and Rafal. So awesome matchup here. So we got Lugia and Archaludon.
So I'm going to tell you honestly, I'm 100% rooting for Archaludon, and I think
Yes,
you've been rooting for Lugia in the past.
I
But
have
Brian,
been.
talk us through turn one for Lugia. Is it just Ultra Ball double Archeops?
It's if it's there, it's never guaranteed to be there. But if you're able to get it,
Never.
that's the way to go. But um,
That's a
Adam
lie.
seems, yeah,
If you're
Adam
my
seems to have
opponent,
stuff.
it's guaranteed to be there. But
Yeah,
please keep going.
yeah. Clearly not for me though. But good start for Adam here. He's able to get down the Lugia V. It's always good to go first in this matchup. One thing that's kind of interesting with this matchup is it's kind of hard to kind of get that first two prize lead into this matchup because there's a lot of one prizers that Archaludon usually likes to start with. I mean, for Roth's side, it's not really that great just because he's got only the Pheasantipity, but usually like to get those one prizers kind of going.
Well, and I was actually going to mention that. Oh
Oh, no.
no, we see the draw pass for a fall.
Oh, no.
All right, so what does Adam do here? Do we rip the research and just
I
say we
think,
hit it and win?
yeah, I think if you're able to hit the research and you're able to get like at least one Archeops in the discard pile and then an attachment for turn, you can pretty much win here.
That's true, and that's
Yeah,
exactly what he would need: is one Archeops in the discard pile, a
yeah,
Lugia V Star, and one energy.
yeah.
And interesting. Why do you think he's playing down the Luminion? Are we going for the like thin out a single card and go to town, or we are using
Ooh,
Jacques?
Jacques. Oh, I think so. I think Adam's trying to take the slower approach here. He knows that there's no real threat here. He's not going for the high roll for the donk. He wants to kind of get his setup going, and I respect this play. Just
Okay.
because he knows that he's going to be able to guarantee the double chops in the discard, pending any sort of disruption. But I do like this. So now it's
And
kind of
I
guaranteed.
Oh, and there it is too, with the top
Yep.
deck of the Lugia V Star. Just and Rafal
Oh
just
man.
for the best one. All right. Well, that
Oh no.
was a rather disappointing first game,
Yeah.
but this is always why we have two. So before we switch over, Brian, any thoughts on that Lugia
Uh,
appearance?
you know, that's just that. I don't know. I feel like with Archaludon, I've never really had that kind of start before.
That's
Um, but it's just a tough start for Roth. Can't
it.
really ask for that. And then
It
take a
is.
look at the chat. Arctic's asking, Dan, are you going to EUIC?
I am. Let's get into this game quick,
Yeah,
real quick, and then yes, Arctic,
yeah,
I'll definitely get back to you. But
yeah.
so the matchup we have here now, though, is actually Raging Bolt versus Sylveon EX with
Sylveon
what looks
EX.
like Glamora
Oh,
EX.
Glamora EX.
Brian, what does any of that do?
I know the Glamora EX. It's kind of like a collapsed stadium. I think you can have up to like I think it's like 3 or 4 in the on your bench, and then the Sylveon EX allows you to shuffle Pokemon back into your opponent's deck because there's been a lot of times playing Lugia that Sylveon EX has shuffled my 2 Archeops back into the deck.
So that's exactly. Glamora EX has an
Yeah,
ability that says it's actually Parallel City, which
yeah,
is before your time and before my
yes.
time, honestly. But says that your opponent can't have more than 3 Pokemon on their bench. And then, like you said, Sylveon EX, the second attack says shuffle 2 of your opponent's bench Pokemon into your deck. So you force your opponent to only have 3 Pokemon on their bench. And then you shuffle 2 of the important ones back in and say, what are you going to do, my guy?
Yeah.
And Josh doesn't seem like he's quite on the way to make that play happen, but this is the first time we're going to see that Badu lock come in.
Yeah, the Badu lock is really useful into this matchup just because I feel like Raging Bolt does rely on a lot of items, kind of like the Night Stretcher, Energy Retrieval, stuff like that. Um, I think that's what a Slitherwing in the active.
Yes.
So that also has like a very high retreat cost as well. So I do like Josh's position here. The Itchy Pollen's definitely going to be putting in some work here.
Yeah, I would say I actually think his position is horrendous, but exactly like you said, we're going to get to see how much time that Ichipollen can buy. And Arctic,
Yeah,
I am not going to EUIC. As I mentioned earlier, I have a new baby, and baby is not going to travel to London, at least travel internationally for a couple months. So we are home for a bit, and then we're going to be at Seville Regional or a special event, though. So I'm pretty hyped about that. All right, so Brian, talk us through what Ethan is doing here, though, with Raging Bolt. Like, what
yeah.
is his game plan?
So his game plan is to put a lot of energy on the board and do a lot of damage.
That's
So
very
um,
reasonable.
yes. So with Ethan's deck, he had a switch card, he had a prime catcher in hand. All of those were very useful cards, but he can't use them because he's under item lock. So he was able to get some energy on the board, but has to kind of slow down his game plan just because, um, no items.
Well, and the stomp off, though, was very effective in getting rid of a Glamora EX, which
Yeah,
kind of gets in the way of what Josh wants to do here. But like you
definitely.
said, Josh has got time right now.
Yeah, definitely. And it's so the only thing with a lot of these Terra like evolutions that I kind of have issues with is just they have such weird energy costs. So it definitely feels like you have to put in a lot of time setting up these Pokemon. They're cool decks, but they definitely need a little bit more support before they can kind of reach that upper echelon.
And I think
Yeah.
that's the big thing with any of these Terra Pokemon is the costs are so expensive.
Yeah.
And now there's stuff like that Sparkling Crystal, there's Crispin, stuff that you can work with, but it's just a lot more steps. And
Yeah.
so, Brian, I have a question for you. Going back to
Yeah.
Ethan's turn, he declined to take a knockout with his whatever the Slitherwing.
Mhm.
Why?
Yeah, I think he wants to set up the Raging Bolt and follow more of that 2-2-2 prize map. I think that's kind of like the reason to do it. And just putting more of the energy on the board is like a better, I guess, early game plan, especially just since he knows he's not going to be using items.
So I would agree with you to a degree, but the
Yes.
issue is Josh's deck is built around getting rid of threats on Ethan's bench. So giving Josh plenty of time with that Eevee down, with Sylveon about to come down, like if Ethan doesn't load up a second bolt, Josh could just come in with Sylveon and get rid of that Raging Bolt with an Iono or something, and suddenly
Yeah.
Ethan's sitting there like, where do I go from here?
Yeah, definitely. I can definitely agree with that as well. Definitely kind of tough to kind of because it's one of those matchups you don't really see very often, so you don't really have like
Yes.
a concrete game plan against it.
Well, and
Yeah.
Josh brings some cool decks every time. So getting back
Yeah.
to Josh's turn. So Brian,
Yeah.
what is his plan this turn? We see the
Yeah.
Sparkling
I
Crystal.
see the crystal. Yeah, I think the crystal is definitely um, wanting to be played here, and I think the Sylveon does have another attack that it can use. Let me see if I can find what it does, but I know a lot of these
So I believe
evolutions. Yeah.
it does 160 damage and then reduces the damage done by the opposing active Pokemon by 100 during the next turn.
Okay, yeah, the magical charm. Okay, so he already attached from the last turn. As long as he has another energy, Sparkling Crystal can use that attack.
So actually, no, he did retreat the. I was going to say the Hyper Blower, but the Iron
Oh, the
Bundle.
Iron
So
Bundle, yeah.
there is only the one manual attachment from this turn, but
hmm
with that Sparkling Crystal, like you said, he's got time, and he's kind of expecting Ethan to knock out this Budew before anything else happens.
Yeah, definitely. And another turn of item lock will never hurt him.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely. And
yep.
we
So
do
there's
see the
Sylveon.
Sylveon come down. It's a beautiful card, man.
Yeah, definitely. All these new prismatic cards are so pretty yet so expensive.
So expensive.
Yeah.
Have you been able to open any?
I opened 2 ETBs and I got absolutely nothing out of them.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
fair enough.
yeah.
All
Have
right,
you
so
opened
Josh
any?
seems very perturbed here, but how do you feel about
Oh,
that decision?
the rigid belt. I like the rigid belt.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna see the Pokestop.
Ooh, the Crispin would have
That's
been
not
so
great.
useful.
Yeah, that's not
Yeah.
ideal. All right. So then we'll see the Itchy Pollen,
Itchy
10 more damage down, and Ethan's got a lot of nothing to do.
Yeah, a whole lot of nothing. I wonder if you even like rip the Pokestop at this point, because I feel like anything that you sort of gain, you can't even use it.
All right. Oh, we're still gonna rip it.
Okay. I guess.
And at any other time,
Yeah.
that's a really good Pokestop.
Yeah.
All right,
Stomp
so we see
off.
the stomp off. Okay. So then, Brian, here's my question. Because I'm watching this game. I'm watching how Josh thinned down his hand. What does he do?
What does he do? Um, I mean, there's no V's. Use a Forest Seal Stone. That Crispin would have ridden real nice this turn. I honestly see nothing wrong with just keeping the item lock going just because Raging Bolt's main objective is just to knock out everything really quickly. But when your whole hand is items, you can't really do anything.
True. Okay.
Research would have been kind of nice.
Would have been really nice. But
Okay,
all
so
right.
the
So,
Night Stretcher's good. If there's any energy in there, then Josh can definitely get ready to attack.
and there is at least one water energy in
Yeah.
there from retrieving the Iron Bundle. So, yeah, like you said,
Yeah,
we've got the second attack from Sylveon EX here. So,
yeah.
Josh can get rid of that Ogremon and
And
the Raging
and the
Bolt.
Raging Bolt. Yeah, I think the Raging Bolt's definitely the priority here, just because I mean Ethan's put so much time into setting this up already. Um, but part of me is like wondering, it's like the the item lock has been helping so much so far. Is like, is there a point where you sort of break the item lock to further your board state?
So I think that's a
Yeah,
great question. And what do you
yeah,
think here?
yeah. I would honestly like to keep the item lock going just because it seems that Ethan's just draw passing every turn. But I also don't hate this totally. But knowing that Ethan's hand is full of items, he can definitely have like a pretty stellar turn this next turn and possibly even knock out the Sylveon EX. It wouldn't surprise me if he did.
Well, I would agree to a degree. I
Yeah.
think the biggest risk for Josh was Ethan getting a second Raging Bolt down or a
Yes.
third Raging Bolt down and being able to attack the following turn. Now, even though Ethan does have a handful of items, he has to go find the Raging Bolt, get it down,
Hmm.
accelerate enough energy, find Teal Mass to accelerate more, find a switch out, which we know he has.
Yep.
But essentially, he has to get down 4 energy, which isn't terrible,
Yeah.
and a switch out to take the knockout here.
Yeah. And I feel like now that the items can be used again, I feel like it's a much more realistic demand for Ethan to kind of be able to accomplish. Just because I mean I'm looking at this hand, he's got like energy retrievals, he's got ultra balls in there, switch card, prime catcher. I don't think
Well,
he's
so he
ripped
actually
Pokestop.
only has one Ultra Ball, I
Oh,
think.
okay.
So we actually are a little limited on Pokemon search.
Yeah.
Although we do have a bajillion trekking shoes and switch
Yeah.
cards. And yeah, to
Yeah.
be honest, we're only going to be able to get out one Pokemon right now.
Yeah. Looks like it.
Okay. So then, Brian, what is Ethan's dream here? What are the guys he wants to get out and get ready?
Yeah, I think you need Ogre Pawns out, just because the Ogre Pawns are going to be able to accelerate the energy on the board. That kind of helps you get to that, what's a 270 number that you want for the knockout. Need that. Need Sada. I think Sada is the most important card of this entire turn. Being able to have Sada will get the 2 energy on the board as well, and we'll also be able to keep this energy onto the Slitherwing as well. So it's and so
Well, so
realistically, yeah, I think Ethan needs about, to get 2 more energy in play, one from attachment and then at least one from Sada.
and that's really it.
Yeah.
Is Ethan needs to hit a Sada,
Yeah.
which hilariously we're not hitting right now.
Yeah, we are not.
So we're going to get to see a Pokestop into maybe a Pokegear or something like
Yeah.
that. But otherwise, Josh may have timed that beautifully
Yeah,
because now he's in a
definitely.
position where he can take another turn to set up.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the advantages of playing a deck like this is because you pretty much know your deck better than your opponent knows your deck. So you can kind of use that to your advantage.
And that's always been the road deck advantage is
Yeah.
that there is a much higher chance that all play optimally compared to you, even if the power level of my deck is not super high.
Yeah, definitely.
And we are indeed seeing Ethan with the Roaring Thunder. I always forget what the
Ooh.
actual deck
And
is.
I think I would have liked either to use the Pokemon catchers to try to get the Pheasantipity in the active, because if you want to stay on that 2/2/2 prize trade, the Slitherwing is a fighting type, so it'd be able to knock out the Pheasantipity for weakness. So being able to at least try to gust it up, or if you were to be able to use the Prime Catcher for it, I think that would have been the more optimal play.
I would agree.
Yeah,
So the cool thing, though, we can see here is we can just look back into Itchy Pollen.
yeah,
Because
definitely.
so one wrinkle I should know with that is you cannot use that second attack on Sylveon EX twice in a row.
Yeah, definitely an interesting part.
So Brian, is Itchy Pollen the play here? Is something else the play here?
He definitely used a lot of resources to kind of get his board to where it's at now. And I think the Itchy Pollen would be super good here.
I would tend to agree. I
Yeah.
don't know if I love that Pokestop, but it's okay. What do you think he was
Yeah.
digging for there?
Probably another Eevee. Something
Yeah.
just to get another attacker going.
And so we will be
Let's
able to
see.
use Terra Ball to get something out of the deck. But you're right. I think that's the biggest issue for Josh is he doesn't have another attacker lined up right now.
Yeah, and with this knowing Raging Bolt can pretty much blow up any attacker within the turn. So
Yeah.
it's definitely a lot of threat on Ethan's board.
And so we see, is that another Sylveon? Okay, so one
Yeah.
of the questions always with these evolutions is how many evolutions have you crammed into this deck? And so it looks
Yeah.
like
I think it's just
just
a
the
Sylveon.
Sylveon for
Yeah.
Josh. Let's not get too crazy here.
Yeah. And I think the nice thing about these decks too is that you can evolve the EVEX 2-prizer basic into another EX. So it pretty much gives you a 5th EV to kind of work with, which I kind of
Yes.
like. And Josh looks to be going for the Itchy Pollen again,
In which
just like we said.
I love this decision then, because now if Ethan wants to mill, he can. If Ethan wants to attack, he does knock himself out.
Yeah.
So Josh has put himself into a better position here.
Yeah, definitely.
And we see the attack and knockout.
Oh, knock itself
All
out.
right. So Brian, who does Ethan advance?
Ooh, I would advance the Raging Bolt.
I also would have advanced the Raging Bolt.
Yeah, because that Raging Bolt's getting shuffled into the deck.
Yes, it is. And Josh got an Iono. So we are going to be able to game here a little bit more should he decide to.
Yeah, definitely.
And that Iono actually was off the prizes from the knockout of the Slitherwing.
Yeah,
Okay, so that's a good steal.
definitely. So it looks like Josh is trying to get a second attacker here because the Sylveon's getting a little banged up here. So wanting to get another attacker set up should definitely be priority for this turn.
Yeah, this Sylveon is definitely a little squishy at this point, since I believe it only has 130 HP remaining.
Oh, I guess he's going Nest for Luminion, probably for Forest Sealstone.
Exactly, because obviously Luminion's ability does not activate with a Nest Ball, but Forest Sealstone gets him about what? Oh, what?
Wow.
Brian, I didn't see this one coming. Did you?
Yeah, I did not.
Oh man.
The Xerosix.
So Brian, what does Xerosix do? Why are we flabbergasted here?
So Xerosix is a really interesting control card because it was really hyped up when it got revealed, hasn't really had much play since, and the card tells your opponent to discard cards from their hand until they have 3 in hand.
Yes.
And that combined with item lock can be very oppressive. But
absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, Ethan, to be blunt, didn't have a ton of cards in hand that he was really hyped on keeping, but that's still a big deal to get rid of that many resources.
Yeah, definitely. Like when you're getting rid of stuff like Prime Catcher, Pokemon Catcher, energies, those could have been really useful on prior turns, but it's just the fact that you're limiting your opponent's resources to that little is very effective.
So why? Okay, so I see the hand Ethan kept was Nest Ball, Iono, Energy. Okay, that's a pretty good hand.
Yeah, I would agree, just because you can Iono, get 5 brand new cards. Hopefully that Nest Ball will be used to get another Raging Bolt.
I assume so. And so I'm curious with Josh. I gotta imagine he uses that second attack on Sylveon here.
I would hope so.
Yeah. And we do have a Buddy Poffin in hand. So if there's another Eevee deck, we could go get it. But
I didn't see one.
I didn't either.
Yeah,
and that's the tricky part.
Yeah.
So then, if Josh isn't able to get another Sylveon, what do we do here?
I think you use the Glamora EX as an attacker.
Oh, goodness. Oh,
yeah.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
Well, do we even play Fighting Energy? Because we've seen Lightning, Psychic, and Water, but I haven't seen a Fighting yet.
Yeah, I haven't seen Fighting Energy either.
So at this point, are we losing Luminion V or Pheasantipity for an attacker?
Yeah, probably. Ooh, that's actually a good question. I like the Fez, to be honest, just because I like how you can spread that damage around. But
and Fez can clean up a Raging Bolt, but dude, this is as much as Josh is in a dominating position. He's in a dominating position, having only taken 1 prize.
Yeah.
So Ethan still has time.
Yeah. And that's one of the things about this deck that's made it so strong ever since it came out, is just because it has so many options.
Yes. All right, so we do see the Buddy Poff in there. And Josh, I think, is doing exactly the count you were of how many Eevees do I have left?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to see the Buddy Poffin.
Out. Oh, there's the Badoo. Yeah, I don't see another Eevee in there.
I don't actually mind the Badoo here, though, just as a follow-up to buy himself a little more time if Ethan does get the knockout.
Yeah, and Badoo's always been great, too, just because it's got free retreat. The attack doesn't require any energy, so very useful card.
I agree.
We're probably going to be seeing the Iono into the...
Well, we did already use Xerosix.
Oh, use Xerosix, yeah.
Yes, so we cannot Iono. I recognize Xerosix happened a long time ago in real time, so...
Yeah, I guess we're going with this other attack here.
And I mean, Josh has got to use that second attack on Sylveon,
Yeah,
right?
got to. I don't think there's any point in putting any damage on the board currently.
Especially not on that Teal Mass Ogerpon, since like you
Yeah,
can't snipe it with Fez. You're two-shotting it for 2 prizes anyway. It's not a big attacker.
yeah,
Like, there's no real advantage here.
yeah. I think the only time you'd want a magical charm is if you're to knock out like the Squawkabilly.
Yes,
Yeah, because
agreed.
that's a clean knockout.
Oh, but are we going to
Yeah,
see the attack here? Well, actually, hilariously, with Ethan's hand of only having Iono, Magical Charm is probably the best play for Josh here.
yeah, I would think so too. I can also see a world if he thinks that he can get Ethan to put that Squawk in the active if he bundles.
Which should be off.
Yeah.
Oh.
Ooh.
So,
Ooh.
Brian, I'm
Oh,
thinking
this.
that Magical
Ooh.
Charm seems a lot better now.
Oh no, that Angel Light also sounds pretty decent too, because now it's just a Raging Bolt in the active.
That's true.
Yeah. 3
Okay,
cards
so
in
now
hand.
Ethan having that Iono is not good.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's as Ethan's shuffling up. So here's one of the reasons why I love and hate these kinds of decks. So I love because, dude, this is cool. Like, this is
Yeah.
just cool board control, everything. But again, Josh has gone through a ton of resources, burned through a ton of his deck, only has one main attacker down, and he's only taken 1 prize.
All for the funny play.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's a prize he didn't even take the knockout on.
Yeah.
So, how do you think Josh goes about winning the game?
I think he needs to start taking prizes. Yeah, I think he needs to start taking prizes. And I think if he had something like a Blood Moon Ursaluna EX, that would be such a great way to like kind of close out your game too.
Agreed. And I think
Yeah.
that'd be a great closer, but those are possibly the worst 2 cards Josh wanted to see from
Yes.
Ethan.
Absolutely.
Oh my goodness. That is atrocious, to be honest. Ooh, but I don't know if I love that decision.
Yep.
Well,
Okay.
Josh may get a little bailed out here. We do see the teal dance. We see another energy. So we can see another teal dance. And then we still have Pokestop, but Ethan needs to hit a lightning.
Yeah, he would need like an energy retrieval or something like that. Or a
Well, so
night stretcher.
there's actually not any lightning energy in the discard. Because Ethan decided to attach the lightning to the bench one rather than a fighting. He needs to raw see an energy search or Brian, we missed it.
Yeah, I think we missed it. Yeah, I think. Ooh, no crystal though.
That is a big deal because that does mean Josh is going to have to attach.
Yes.
And now, do you think you burst roar?
I do like the burst roar over the yeah. I do
right,
like
because we already played Sada.
Yeah, we played Sada. Yeah, I do like the burst roar here.
And actually, Ethan's starting to run low on cards there, Brian.
Yeah, he is. Okay, so there's the lightning.
And then we go over to Josh's turn. We see a heavy ball. We have Iono.
Heavy ball. So that's probably where all the EVs are.
There's at least one in there. Okay, so we do get an Eevee, which is excellent.
Yes.
But we still need a lightning energy. Because right now we do not have the... Well, actually, we just need any energy for the active Sylveon. There is Crispin. Is Crispin the move right now?
I think you have to play Crispin if you want to attack.
Well, we have the water energy in hand, so we can manually attach.
Yeah, but it needs the lightning in order to... Oh, I guess we need to take prizes here. Yeah.
Yeah, and so for those watching at home, the first attack for Sylveon EX costs Psychic, Colorless, Colorless. The second attack costs Water, Lightning, Psychic. So first attack is a little bit easier to use, even if it's not quite as cool as the second one.
Yeah.
All right, so then, Brian, we have Crispin, we have Iono. What is the move here for Josh?
I think he's got to just attack and hope that he can get another attacker set up. Oh, that's just the tough part though, is that since he needs to use the raw attach here, he's not going to have another attacker ready to go by the next turn.
So that's why if he had 2 different types of basic energy in the deck, Crispin would have been essential there to keep the attacks chained. But he's probably thinking he's just going to have a turn of Budu.
Yeah, that's true. And with how low his hand is getting as well, or Ethan's deck is going as well, there might not be as many outs to stuff like Sada, even though he's got one in hand.
I would tend to agree.
Yeah.
And even then, Ethan's done with Iono. We've used the Pal Pad. There may not be a good way to refill his deck at this point. So
Yeah.
Josh could go for a Budu Lock mill out like win condition here.
Yeah, definitely. Ooh,
Which is
and the Pokemon headquarters. That's also a really good card to have in this deck as well.
it is.
Yeah.
And so Brian, why is that deck or that card so helpful here?
Yeah, just because it makes basic Pokemon need an extra energy in order to attack. So for stuff like Raging Bolt, as all basic Pokemon, they're going to need at least 2, 3, sometimes even 4 energy for the Ogrepons to be able to attack.
Yes, absolutely. And so we see 3 energy go back into the deck with that Super Rod. Josh ready to do 160 and then reduce Bolt's damage by 100. Also take, I believe it's 30 less with the Rigid Band.
Yeah, so it's pretty much going to need like an extra, well, that 140
need
already. I
4
think you're going to need
energy
all
for the
4
knockout.
energy in order to knock out, yeah.
Which isn't terrible, is very achievable, but it's going to require Ethan to basically clean his board of energy or play that Sada.
Yeah.
And I don't think Ethan wants to play that Sada.
Yeah, I think he's fine where he's at right now. I think he's looking to do that.
Yeah, we're doing the math. We,
Yeah.
as you can see at home, we have an audience now around Josh
Yes.
and Ethan since they're one of the latest games here.
Yes.
And then Bryce, if you could let us know just how much time we have left, that would be lovely. And then also Ethan has now gone down to 4 prizes remaining. Since we are not there to say like, hey, Bryce, we got to do it over this.
Yeah, we got to do it.
All right. So we see 1, 2, 3, 4 energy, knockout on Sylveon EX, 2 prizes for Ethan. Ethan now goes to 3 prizes remaining. And now Josh is in an interesting spot.
Yeah. The Budu is showing its use here.
It is. And so, Brian, what is the win condition for Josh now?
I think Josh needs to just set up another attacker and hope that it doesn't get knocked out right away. And I think an important thing here is I think he needs to find a way to draw into the league headquarters, because the league headquarters pretty much allows him to stall out a lot more than just like than just being able to just let this Raging Bolt keep attacking.
So I would agree.
Yeah.
The thing actually I would have loved to see is for Josh to keep the Hyper Blower, the Iron Bundle, to then use the Iron Bundle to actually force up something where he could item lock stall.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, and we do see so Bryce let us know we have 5 minutes remaining in the round. We'll see the the Pheasantipity. Interesting. But so to your point, Brian, it sounds like your line for Josh is setting him that Sylveon EX so that way it can knock out this Iron or Raging Bolt and get to an endgame.
Yes.
My win condition here is Ethan decks himself out.
Yes.
So, which do you think is going to win here?
I feel like Ethan is just way too ahead here. I think with Asada and like another like attachment, it's like more than enough to sort of just win the game from there. I mean, there's another. Oh, this Iono's huge.
And so we do get the Iono to 2, which is a big deal. But I kind of agree with what you're saying. Like, Ethan doesn't need much in order to win. So Josh putting Ethan into a position where he just needs to hit a Sada or something, like,
yeah.
isn't a lot to ask for.
Yeah, there's that league headquarters.
Okay, well, that helps.
That definitely helps a lot.
And so we see the Pal Pad.
Ooh, he's eyeing the Zerosix.
That is interesting. Do you think that's the right one to get here?
No, I think the boss is definitely the right thing to kind of put in there.
I agree.
The Zerosix is kind of fun though.
Oh, it's way cooler, but definitely not the right decision.
Yeah.
All right, so we do see the boss, likely the Iono.
I like Iono also.
So I had some lovely person ask me to coach them for a little bit leading up to San Antonio Regional. And one of the things we worked on the whole time was very simple, not deck specific, but what is your win condition? And how do you map out what your win condition is every turn with every change, stuff like that. And Brian, I hear you kind of said a little bit ago, you see Josh's win condition to be taking 6 prizes.
Yeah.
And to me, I think that ship sailed a while ago.
Yeah.
And we got to a point where we need to have a very different win condition here. And so it's interesting, which supporters he got back there is a really big indicator of what he thinks his win condition is. And it seems like he thinks he's winning by taking prizes.
Yeah.
And I hate to break it to him, I don't think he is.
Yeah, it's a little tough too because you're not really able to maximize a lot of like your resources like the Sada. Like the Sada's only putting 1 energy in play here. Like you get another Raging Bolt down, but I don't know. It's just like once Josh was able to get that second Sylveon EX going, it really does open up a lot of opportunity for him to kind of take this game here.
It does. And
Yeah.
so now we see the boss. Okay.
Okay. I would really like the boss on like maybe the Raging Bolt or because I feel like you're just gonna be two-shotting everything.
I actually
Oh,
love this decision.
wow.
So we can't see right now how many Sada Ethan is down, but the
Yeah.
answer is a lot. So this
He played his
could,
Palpad
weirdly enough,
really early.
he did. And so
Yeah,
this could weirdly enough. Oh, well, all right. Well, that's
Yeah.
fine. Still, Josh may have just won via mill out here just based on the amount of resources Ethan's now going to have to like
Yeah.
utilize to reset up. So, Brian, what is Ethan like? How does Ethan go about winning this game now?
Oh man, I don't even know. He's gonna need like an attachment for turn. He's gonna need another energy. Oh, I don't even think he can take this last 2 prizes very cleanly.
I would agree.
Yeah,
We don't got a lot in deck for Josh.
yeah. Both decks are pretty thin.
They are. So I guess my question is, as Josh, do you even take this knockout?
I would say no.
I agree.
Yeah.
I know we
think
have our
just-
cameras on eventually, but I would completely agree.
Yeah.
So, Brian, why? Why are we right and you don't
Yeah.
take this knockout?
I think just because it's gonna give Ethan more flexibility. We put that Radiant Greninja into the active just because, it's a little bit harder to retreat. There's not many item cards to be able to bring it out of the active. So being able to just kind of stall it there and let Josh kind of set up his board a little bit more is really good in this instance.
And I would
Yeah.
completely agree. I think forcing Ethan to use the limited resources he has left, because I believe he has 3 cards in deck, like,
Yeah.
make him earn it. Don't give him free access to a knockout by letting him put that Raging Bolt into the active.
Yeah.
And so Josh, we see here trying to do that math on what's the move.
Yeah. And I think he's kind of eyeing maybe like the Glamora. The Glamora could be pretty cool here too.
So why is that? Why do you think that would be an interesting one?
Just because the Glamora, it limits the bench to 3, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so I mean if the bench is limited to 3, there's 3 Pokemon on the bench already. There's no more other like support Pokemon that could be put, no more Ogrepons, Fez, anything like that.
So that is time in the round. So Josh is turn 0, which, to be honest, that only hurts Josh because I believe Josh's win condition at this point was mill out, and Ethan would be able to just pass back a couple times without milling out, whereas Ethan's win condition is still taking out this Sylveon.
Yeah.
And so this is another thing I think is tricky with this style of deck because Josh's deck is a slow deck. So you gotta play fast to try to finish these games.
Yeah, definitely. And when it's like a new archetype like this, usually there's not enough reps that you can kind of put into the deck to be able to kind of make those very fluid kinds of motions. So
yeah,
be a little
I
tough
agree.
here. Yeah. Might just have to pass here, or either that or you risk attacking and then
And I think attacking is the risk. Because if you attack and Ethan's able to get 2 energy down, like he just wins.
Yeah, definitely.
But if you don't attack, Ethan has to Sada.
Yeah. And I think you might have to attack eventually because if Josh is still intent on winning this game by taking prizes, he's gonna need to take 2 separate knockouts.
Yes. And at this point, though, based on the amount of damage Josh's deck can do, that includes 3 attacks. So Josh is not winning this game by taking prizes.
Yeah.
Yes, and I absolutely agree, Arctic. Like Josh, unfortunately, playing a little too slow this turn, kind of took himself out of his win condition.
Yeah.
So, and this is something we call out, not to say how could you, Josh, but I think this is legitimate good feedback going into a regional. You don't have a lot of time. Trying to
Yeah.
finish 3 games in 50 minutes is hard.
It is hard, yeah. Especially when you play slower decks, like even like this, stuff like Gardevoir. Sometimes Charizard could be seen as a little bit slower too. So being able to kind of match your pace is very important.
It is.
Yeah.
And I think Ethan just passed back to Josh, to
Yeah.
which
This might just be the tie.
and it's
Yeah.
absolutely going to be, unless Josh does something silly here, it is absolutely a tie.
Yeah. Oh man.
Oh, well, all right. I
All
guess we're
right.
doing the cool thing first. All right. And we're just going to take the
Go to
tie
tie.
after getting one more shuffle in off of Sylveon.
Yep.
All right. So, Brian, what are your thoughts on that match as we kind of close it down?
Um, it, I mean, I think we got a good lesson in kind of like pace. Pace is
Yes.
very important here, and it's just really it's just like a really important lesson here, especially if you really want to take it to the next level in your competition. Being able to make your moves quickly, kind of think ahead, and kind of just know what you want to do. Because again, it's like you can't really. There's a lot of things in the game you can't control. You can't really control how quickly your opponent plays within reason. And then, just like how your deck functions and stuff like that. So kind of just like knowing what you're going to do turns ahead will help you to get those games done faster.
Well, so and I think that is the biggest deal, and something I don't think people talk about much is you're not trying to win a game. You're not trying to beat your opponent at Pokemon, silly as it may sound. You're
Yeah.
trying to win the match.
Yeah,
And you don't
exactly.
have to win 2 games to win the match. You don't have to. There's a million different ways to win the match,
Yeah.
but you have to at least finish one game with a win in order to do that. And
Yeah.
so, Josh, there, by taking that extra time in those last couple turns and not making those snappier decisions, kind of played himself out of a win there into a tie since he was able to force Ethan to use so many resources.
Yeah, definitely. And if this were like a regional setting and they only had time to play that one game in 50 minutes, who knows who would have been able to win because they were kind of just like stalling it out. We don't
Hmm.
really know who. Maybe Josh would have decked out first at that point.
Well, that's fair.
Yeah,
I honestly think
yeah,
in that match, if it was a best of three, I think Josh would have won because
yeah,
he would have had those couple extra minutes. Now, granted,
yeah,
if it was a best of three, we would have been encouraging Josh to make decisions a little bit quicker,
yeah,
but it's also locals. We're
yeah,
playing for fun, man.
yeah. We are playing for fun, but it's a good lesson that you can kind of take away. And that's what we're really here to do here is just to learn. Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. That's why we're talking at you guys. We
yeah,
want this to try to be helpful for you.
definitely.
All right, so Brian, we were very briefly glimpsing Lugia flipping the right coins to
Yeah.
dominate, and
Hmm.
you had mentioned that it's actually not a deck you want to play for EY.
No, no.
Okay, so Bryce, if you don't mind throwing up the Lugia deck list. faces for a little bit before we get back to the game. Oh, but we have the game, even better.
Oh, even
So
better.
we have a very interesting matchup here in Charizard versus Ceruledge. So, Brian, which one do you want to talk about, Charizard or Ceruledge?
I definitely want to talk about Charizard because Charizard's actually like one of the decks I was kind of initially kind of thinking about playing going into the format. I played it to our challenge last week because I actually got to play for once,
All
and
right.
it's definitely changing a lot too, just because of the introduction to Badu and all the changes to the item cards and stuff like that. So Eli is actually the perfect person to have on it because when we have streamed it in the past in this format, he was actually able to show off like really cool stuff you can do with the Grand Tree.
Yes, and
Yeah,
the Grand Tree is a huge piece of this with that item lock.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's
And
super
so
cool. And Eli is like the perfect pilot for this too. He's been playing this deck for a really long time and he really knows how to navigate the matchup a lot.
I
Yeah.
completely agree. And he's also an excellent player in general.
Yes,
But
absolutely.
jumping over to Tim's side, Tim, I will be nice to you. I promise. Tim has played Lost Zone Giratina in the past, and as that is my baby, I've had some strong feedback for him, but I have not played much Ceruledge, so I am very excited to see what it pulls off here. But Brian, can you tell the people what this deck is and like how does it
Yeah.
work?
So Ceruledge is also kind of a pretty linear deck. It's cool because its damage ramps up and scales based on the amount of energy that are in the discard pile. So for each energy in discard, you do another 20 damage. And I believe the base damage is like 70 or 80.
So it's 30 plus
Oh,
20
30.
for each energy in the discard. And just to be
Okay.
clear, it is each energy card. So
The
it
energy card, yes.
doesn't matter if it's a jet energy, it's a water, it's a fire, it's just energy in general.
Yeah, and a cool thing with this deck too is a lot of the times, well, it takes advantage of stuff like Radiant Greninja to put those energy in the discard, and the card that he's got in hand right now, the Blender, Brilliant Blender, because that'll put 5 cards in discard. Usually, you'll put 5 energy in the discard with that.
Yes, agreed. And so we do see the Nest Ball for Badu, see the Ultra Ball. And so it looks like, looking at Josh's or Tim's deck here, we have prized Radiant Greninja and Squawkabilly.
Yeah, and I feel like in most instances this would be bad, but I feel like with stuff like Blender and like Ultra Ball and like research, there's a lot of ways you're able to churn through your deck to where like, the Squawk would be really nice here. The Greninja would be really nice here, but it's not like totally like necessary.
I would agree.
Yeah.
And
And I mean,
so,
yeah, Tim's already in a pretty good spot here.
well, so yes, I promised I would be nice to Tim. So,
Yes.
Brian, I'm going to let you give feedback first
Yeah.
on what do you think his decisions were here.
Yeah, so I need to see what he's got in the hand again. But I mean, being able to get 5 energy in the discard right away is, I think, a decent start. It's not the start you'd really want, but I think it's a decent start.
That's fair. So Last God, we're obviously on the Pokemon side, so I can't tell you in great detail, but there was a energy series event this past weekend. So it's very possible that the stream hasn't been available for it because of that. Okay, and so Brian, let's go through Eli's turn, and then I'll have some strongly worded feedback for Tim afterwards. But so, Brian, tell us about Eli's setup. What is he trying to do here?
Yeah,
Maybe
so
just get a couple Buddy Poffin.
yeah, so usually with the Buddy Poffin, after your first turn, you want to have at least like 2 Charmanders down. You want the Pidgey down. If you think you're going to be needing like the Dusknoir line a lot, try to get like some Duskulls down as well. Eli did find that the Grand Tree is in the deck, and it's super helpful with that because it allows you to set up a lot of like really cool like Dusknoir plays, just because like you can Grand Tree. Like there's been a lot of times where I would like Rare Candy, Dusknoir. I'd have like a Thornton for another Duskull, and then I would like Grand Tree up the whole line again and like take like a crazy prize line from that. So super crazy plays that you can do with that card.
And so,
Yeah.
Arctic, to your question, Eli does run the Grand Tree. And so,
Yes,
Brian,
Grand
what does the
Tree.
Grand Tree do exactly?
Yeah, so the Grand Tree has a lot of text. It's like a novel. So I think I have it here on my desk. So
Excellent.
it says once during each player's turn. So both players can use this, which is really cool. That player may search for a stage 1 Pokemon that evolves from one of their basics, and it was put onto it to evolve. So the Pokemon needs to be in play for at least a turn. So like standard evolution rules, you're able to search out for a stage 1, automatically evolve it. If you do this, you can do that with a stage 2 as well.
And that is an insane effect. Like
Yes.
incredibly good, especially when something like Buddy Lock is so big, because
Yeah.
now you can get to a stage 2 in one turn without rare candy.
Yeah. But you need to be careful with this card as well, just because um, on play effects don't work off of this. So if you were to evolve straight to Charizard from this, you wouldn't get to Infernal Rain because you searched through it. You didn't place it by hand.
Exactly.
But if you do it
Exactly.
for stuff like, Pidgeot, you're able to do that and you're able to quick search right away. So you got to be really careful with the kinds of things that you do with the Grand Tree, but it can really open up a lot of like cool opportunities for you to do.
And Arctic Technical Machine Trolley may be the best. I'm honestly just thinking the Grand Tree is cool. So I'm glad we're seeing
Yeah.
it shown off. But yes, I think going into the event, the Trolley TM Evo is at least the most proven effective one.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
so while Eli's setting up this turn, Tim's turn demonstrated exactly why I had concerns. Because we had Luminion, we had Carmine, we had stuff in deck, we had 2 search items, and we had no supporter or other way to dig further. So Tim chose to go get the Budew and the Palkia V when there was an opportunity to get Luminion V, to use Carmine to dig into the deck to start going. And so my concern is why are you using these resources to get something that doesn't let you play the game? And
Yeah.
on the flip side, Eli is using that for a Sealstone to set up his Pidgeot EX to get himself ready to play the game, which is fantastic.
Yeah, definitely. And it's like the Grand Tree is being showed off here, being able to go straight into Pidgeot, and then you can quick search. I mean, there's item lock right now, but being able to kind of go, all right, I'm gonna place down this Charmeleon, and then I'll be ready to Infernal Rain the next turn, is
And
really, really powerful.
agreed. And also we get to Turo to evolve up pull up the Luminion. So Eli can go straight into the deck to get another supporter next turn.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. And so on Tim's side, we do see another Ceruledge
Oh
come down.
no.
Budulok. Things aren't going great, Brian.
Yeah, so just attach here, evolve to Charizard, Infernal Rain.
And so this is interesting because now Eli has the ability to use Pidgeot EX to get something else out. Is there something else you think Eli would want to get with that Pidgeot?
Yeah, so I think there's some cool plays that you can do here. So like
Okay.
you can definitely Grand Tree to get the Dusknoir line out. You can use the Dusknoir to like get rid of something like the Badoo, and then if you have Thornton, you can also Luminion for Thornton, take out that Charmander, and the Charmander can also turn into another Dusknoir line as well.
That is true. So we could actually do 180 damage with a Dusknoir and a Dusclops. I don't know if that full line is going to be... Wait, are we not getting the Dusknoir out?
No, you don't have to. You don't have to. You can go. You can if only if you're like if you go straight to stage 1. If you want to, you can go straight to stage 2. But if you want to stop at stage 1, that's also an option you can do as well.
I see. And so we
Yeah.
are... So why do you think Eli's skipping the Dusknoir here?
Yeah, I think he's just doing it just to keep the Dusknoir out there, because he's probably just going to use the Duskull to bonk the Budew, because that's all you really need. And then,
so Eli actually went in to get the boss's orders.
Yeah, I think he's going to go boss Palkia. Yep, and then he's going to bonk the Budew to go down to 5 prizes.
So bonking the Budew would still lead to a 2-shot on the Palkia V, but instead we did use the Dusclops to put 50 damage on the Palkia and then hitting 210 with Charizard EX.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so now we have an Ultra Ball for Tim. We can play the game here. And we're choosing to Nest Ball. Okay, so Brian, I'm clearly not on the same page with... Okay, we got a Fezandip.
Yeah.
But tell me, can Tim do 310 damage this turn and knock out this Charizard?
I think you can, because I remember playing this deck, playing Gardevoir into Ceruledge, and my jaw dropped when I saw Ceruledge knock out my Gardevoir EX.
It's reasonable.
So it's very realistic. You definitely can do it.
And so we actually have, I think, 7 energy already in the discard pile. And we're about to get a whole... We could reach.
Yeah. It's definitely realistic.
Okay, Tim, I'm going to be nice to you forever going forward, because holy, we could still reach here.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
what else does Tim
granted,
need to do? Oh, go
yeah,
ahead, Brian.
granted, he's gonna need the attachment for turn. I mean, he can discard the jet as well. That would count towards his number. Um, I think
But we're
he
gonna
just needs a
need.
supporter. He needs like a research or something, I feel like.
So we do have Ultra Ball in hand, so
Yeah.
we could go get Luminion. And I'm
Yeah.
actually kind of why we didn't just do that.
Yeah,
Oh, there we go. Okay,
yeah.
we're doing it.
I think we're working on it.
So we get Luminion here. I assume there's a research in deck. And so, Brian, I think we need 14 energy in order to knock out this Charizard.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And we're at 10. We're getting there.
Yeah, definitely.
So do we not have any
Oh,
Professor's
there's
research
Luminion.
in there?
I think it's just Carmine, I think.
What do you think about that decision from a
Oh,
deck building standpoint?
there's research. Yeah, there's
Oh, okay.
research. So I think, well, Carmine is a weird card because like a lot of people are thinking it would be good in something like Lugia, but I feel like Carmine, there's like better cards out there. I think the strength of Carmine comes in this deck only just because you want to be able to start churning through your deck from like turn 1.
And we're actually going to see Iono here. So what do you think about that decision?
I'm not mad at it. I would like the extra 2 cards from something like research, but being able to kind of put Eli's huge hand to the bottom, I'm not too mad about that.
And I don't mind it either,
Yeah,
especially
I
if
would
there is
prefer
something.
research though. Yeah.
Yeah. If there's something like a counter catcher in here, I think it's great. But okay. So
Ooh, I
we
like
do
this
hit
too.
another Earthen Vessel.
Yeah, I like too that we get the Pokestop because the Pokestop will allow the Grand Tree to go away, and that's a big part of Eli's game plan. So taking away the Grand Tree is huge here.
It is. And so, especially with Budu available, where if Tim does not hit it, we can get rid of that Grand Tree and Budu to do another 20 damage to Charizard and say, hopefully you have another boss.
Yeah.
To be fair, with Pidgeot EX, Eli will have another boss.
Yeah.
All right. So we have the. Okay. So do you think you Pokestop before or after the Earthen Vessel?
I would have done it. I think I like doing it before because you want to be able to mill more energy. I think you have a higher chance of that by not using Earthen Vessel.
And I would agree.
Yeah.
I think you want to leave the energy in the deck in order to get milled. The one thing I would have liked to see, though, is not playing that Nest Ball prior to the Pokestop because he knew the bottom of his deck was no energy.
Yeah.
So give himself more of an opportunity to get rid of the energy on top of the deck.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So we'll see the 2 energy come out. But I think Tim's kind of stuck at this point because there's not really any other way to get rid of that energy.
Yeah.
So then what's the move here, Brian?
I would think that going like Itchy Pollen here is good, but then again, it's like Quick Search is just going to grab boss anyways, and one of those 2 prize liabilities is getting knocked out, whether it's the Fez or if it's the Luminion.
I would tend to agree.
Yeah.
What do you think about that decision?
Bryce,
if you could yell at them to make it 40 damage because Charizard is weak to grass, that would be lovely. I don't know if it'll matter, but
yeah.
All right, so we see Eli. We have, honestly, not a great hand. Thank you, Bryce. Appreciate you doing that.
Thank you.
So, I mean, for Eli, is it as simple as just go get boss?
I think it is. I think it really is. Just because, like, I think, like, yeah, getting boss here is, like, super good. I want to see what else is Eli's hand, because I feel like you want to set up a second Charizard, because I feel like this Zard here is not lasting this next turn.
I would tend to agree.
Yeah.
And so Eli, yeah, we do have the other boss.
Yeah.
Even if, though, Eli does not get the second Charizard set up, like, if Tim hits into this Charizard, Eli's going to be able to use Rare Candy.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and Eli did get the boss from what I saw, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So then what are we taking out here? Because we got plenty of options.
I would take out the Fez.
Yeah.
I mean, the Fez has the most utility. I mean, the Fez pretty much got this board here in the first place. Like, Tim's board looks completely night and day different without the Fez.
Which is one of the caveats of putting down a card like Fezandipity, because it's so strong. Like, incredibly powerful, but it does accelerate your opponent's game.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so we see Tim get that Fez knocked out here. Eli going down to 2 prizes remaining. Tim is in a position where we can take this knockout pretty easily, but then what?
Yeah, there's not much else to really do here. There's no way to kind of discard these energies, and now we're really seeing the effect of prizing that Greninja.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ooh, that is
Tough.
brutal.
Yeah.
I actually. All right, so we're at 11. If we'd gotten to 12, we'd be at 270. Oh, we are still 20 damage short anyway.
Oh,
So,
going for the itchy pollen again.
Which, I mean, I don't know what else you do in that scenario.
Yeah, at that point you just quick search boss again, don't you?
Assuming Eli plays 3 boss, yes. But I don't know how many the list plays.
I thought I saw another one in there. Oh, there's a Charmeleon.
Which, to be honest, with that Charmeleon, Eli essentially has checkmate. Because he will be able to quick search for another Charizard. And once Eli knocks out this Budu, he just needs to knock out one of anything.
Yeah.
All right, so then is there anything else Eli wants to do?
I don't think so, really. I think that he's just take the quick knockout here.
I would tend to agree.
Yeah.
All right, see the Earthen Vessel. We've already got the knockout. Just a very rough go for Tim here.
Yeah. It's definitely tough, too, because, I mean, not having a lot of those early discard options besides the Brilliant Blender definitely hurt.
Agreed, because Squawkabilly and Radiant Greninja are so essential to this deck getting set up. And if you don't have any of them, like you're going to be in big trouble.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that's why you have so many outs to things with Luminion, with Ultra Balls, with Carmine. Like there's ways to still dig, even if you can't access those.
Definitely.
I mean, 270, Tim has a knockout here. What do you think he's deciding on?
I guess he's thinking if there's anything else he can kind of do in case this attack gets whiffed.
Which it could be possible, even if it's not that likely.
There's a Greninja.
But no, and all right, so that's just game. So we see the Super Rod for 2 fire and a Charizard. We see Ultra Ball for the Charizard. Accelerate the fire, retreat, and murder the crap out of that Ceruledge.
Yeah, and with the 3 prizes going down to 3 prizes, it's a clean 270 for the Charizard. So, yeah.
Perfect math. Exactly what Eli needed.
Yeah, down to a T.
All right, and we are going to our backup game. So we'll see. We have a Dragapult EX, my boy, versus Raging Bolt with Noctowl.
Yeah, so I think Alec here is trying to think ahead here for rotation because this is played a lot in Japan right now.
Raging Bolt, with Noctowl?
Yeah, because since a lot of the kind of support, because Pokestop got rotated out, so being able to, you can just raw search out Sada from Jewel Seeker, and then you can play like Area 0 and stuff like that to take away your liabilities.
So that's actually a really good point because then you have a bit more stable board. You're almost always going to have a Teal Mask Ogerpon down. Okay.
Yeah, and Raging Bolt and Dragapult are looking like the 2 best decks in Japan right now. And Raging Bolt's historically had a good matchup into Dragapult, so that's why it's also been really good as well.
That makes sense. And I would say Raging Bolt into Dragapult Pidgeot, stuff like that, incredibly good matchup.
Yeah.
Definitely. Raging Bolt into Pidgeot Dust or Dragapult Dusknoir, not as perfect, but still pretty good.
Yeah. I think just like the simplicity of Raging Bolt kind of like helps with this. Yeah,
it does.
And plus too, like when you play something like the Fan Rotom, you don't have to really worry about starting with the 2 prize liability as early in the game as you would have in the past.
That is a very good statement. So, and why is that Fan Rotom so good? Like, how does it interact here?
Yeah, so the Fan Rotom allows you to search out 3 basic Pokemon, I think under 90 HP, or is like
under 100.
Under 100 HP. So, I mean, that's how you'll get like your Hoot Hoots and your Noctowls. So, being able to get all of those set up on your board right behind like the Raging Bolt, it's definitely like a good combo.
And that makes a ton of sense. You have a little bit of time, especially only giving up 1 prize, and you can one-shot everything. So there's pretty low risk.
Definitely.
All right, so we see the Dracloak come up, go
Yeah,
back
and
into
the
the Raging
Latias
Bolt.
EX is really good in this deck too, because I mean the Area Zero lets you put as much put a lot of Pokemon on the board, and you get the free retreat too, so you don't have to worry about um, stall or anything like that. Stall
That
locks.
Latias is just such a good card in general.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so we see the Lightning Energy come down. Just for those watching at home, Brian, is there any sequencing stuff you saw there?
I think I just missed it, but what did
So
you see, Dan?
So we did see, no, you're good. So we saw the Prime Catcher, followed by the Retreat, followed by the Energy Retrieval, followed by the Teal Dance. And so for those watching at home, the order of sequencing, you always want to make all of your decisions with the most information available to you. So if you are going to do something like Teal Dance, do that before you play the Prime Catcher, before you retreat, anything like that.
Yeah, definitely. I can agree with that too. Just because you want to search through your deck as much as possible before you commit to a play. Because you'll
Yes.
have a situation where, Tim went all out in the last game to commit to the play that he did, and he fell like 3 energy short.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's all about sort of, balancing the amount of risk you put into your play with the likelihood that you can accomplish it.
And that's the biggest deal, is what is the likelihood of it paying off for you?
Yep.
All right, so we see the knockout by Raging Bolt on the Dracloak, and Arctic gets a great question on Guardian. I'm probably, honestly.
Yeah, I
It's
feel
one
like
of the best decks.
Yeah, like when I went to the Cup over the weekend, it was like there was a lot of Gardevoir, and there was a lot of really good players there playing Gardevoir too. So a lot of high level players were there.
Lake of Rage podcast, I was listening to it, which, by the way, great podcast. Check it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brent Tonneson was talking about how Henry Chow is going to feast in Meridia because Gardevoir is so good right now.
Yeah, and when you're somebody like Henry Chow and how to play Gardevoir Mirror like the back of your hand, wouldn't be surprised if I saw him go back to back.
I wouldn't be either, honestly. All right, so we actually see now Wojun trying to get out a couple more Dreepy here because, man, he is not in a good position.
Yeah, and it doesn't help that, Alec only needs 2 prizes left, and there's stuff like Pheasantipede and Luminion that are still on the board.
There are so many liabilities available,
Yeah.
especially because Alec already has 4 energy on the board. And there's really no clear way for Wojun to knock out this Raging Bolt this turn or next turn.
Definitely.
So the downside of Dusknoir is obviously you give up a prize. Sometimes a downside, sometimes not. But in this situation, when Alec only has 2 prizes remaining, you can't give up the Dusknoir and still attack or give up a single prize attacker this turn.
Yeah.
Like Wojun is just in a very tough spot. So Brian, is there any way you see for him to win?
I don't, and it's tough because being able to put having to put the Duskull there, unless you're able to find a way to get the Latias out of play and stall like another Raging Bolt EX on there, it's really tough. It's really tough. There's no way really I can see without a Dragapult EX or an Ursaluna or anything like that.
So the one tricky play may be if there had been an opportunity to go get a Dragapult here to do something silly like pull up that Noctowl and use Jet Punch or excuse me, whatever it may be. And we do see the boss for Luminion to close out the game for Alec.
Yeah, and that's what makes the Noctowl so powerful here too, is because as long as you have the Noctowl, you can just raw search the boss, which is kind of crazy to think about.
And I mean, that's insane. Just having double quick search, double computer search every single turn, multiple times a turn if you want, it is absolutely insane.
Yeah, definitely.
And so, Arctic, I was going to say it's Henry Chow. I would say, though, don't be afraid of playing anybody. So this is something I've learned. I don't know, Brian, if you've learned this too over the past couple months or years, but once you hit a certain point of skill and capability, sure, Azul's probably going to beat me if we have equal draws and equal things every time. Sure, he'll win 8 out of 10 times, but things aren't always equal. There is variance. And so don't be afraid to sit down across from anybody.
And we were robbed of the opportunity because you guys ID'd in San Antonio.
No, that is true. I was just happy, man. But you're right. We did be in San Antonio. I think I've said this before, but I actually played Azul in my very first top 8 and my very first League Cup.
Yeah.
And I won game 1, he won game 2, game 3. I was all set up to take my last knockout, and then I lost because he's a better player than me. So
he's a very good
happens.
player. Yeah.
So Brian, actually, let me ask on that, because you're going to EUIC, right?
Yeah.
So obviously, there's going to be a ton of great players there. What is your mentality walking into a matchup against a great player?
I think it's just to have it's just to come in with an open mind, because I know if I play a player like of that caliber, I'm gonna my like, instead of like playing to, well, I'm obviously gonna play to win, but my mindset is to try to learn something from it. I kind of had that, like speaking with Colin, right? I played Colin at a local, fresh off of his top 4 at Pittsburgh, and my objective with that was just to learn. I played like a lot of like the really good players in the Chicagoland area, and I always just come in with the mentality, "Hey, let's see what I can learn from this matchup," because they obviously look at the game a little differently than I do. So just, coming in with that open mind and wanting to learn is much more valuable than like thinking of it as like a win or a loss on your record.
I think that is such a healthy mentality, because you can't control much in front of you except for what your approach is and what you can take from it. And also, Moshi, great to see you.
Yeah, and shout out to Colin too. He's in chat too. So definitely have learned a lot from Big Bro in the last few years.
I know Colin says that everyone should fear Colin. He's extremely good at the game.
Yeah.
So, Brian, I think it's a good point. And so for going into EUIC2, part of the thing that's a differentiator there on winning in general is like matchups. It's game planning. It's preparation. So what is your approach to preparing for a big event like that?
Yeah, so the nice thing about having the new nurses schedule is that I get a lot more time to play on my days off. So I've been playing a lot of ladder, and I've been trying to test out that theory because, we've seen players like All Out Blitzel, Henry Chow is a great example of this. They get really high elo on the ladder. So I've been trying to kind of grind ladder and see how high I can kind of get on there and see how that kind of like translates in my testing. Because like obviously I'm going to do my normal testing at locals and stuff like that, closer to the event with like the people I stay with, but seeing what kinds of other testing I can do on my own time is something that I've been trying to really prioritize as well.
I think this is a big switch from the PTC Geo days, because for those back in the day before live, grinding the ladder on Pokemon Trading Card Game Online was not very helpful, because the elo system was not great. You'd play random miscellaneous decks. The quality of player is pretty variable. So there wasn't a lot of confidence you could use it to practice while going to an event. But now, Brian, like you're saying, if you're an Arceus tier and you're playing at 1600, 1700, whatever it may be, you're hitting good decks and you're hitting good players.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's still always going to be random, but it's still high tier games.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, there's obviously going to be those times where you play against those like weird decks. Like I played against like a festival lead before we started today.
Oh,
and so like that's obviously you're going to get like those weird matches, but there's also a lot of merit in just like the random games you play, because it kind of like encourages you to take different like lines and routes and stuff like that, because I mean, you're just playing online, you're going to sacrifice a couple points, but it might not be the right decision, but you might learn something from it.
So Celio's network, Luke Morsa, by the way, check him out too. Great player,
great resource,
great educator. He has talked about the difference between practicing and testing. And I think there is a very real difference between the two. So what we're talking about on live is much closer to practicing than it is testing. So it's learning your deck, learning it inside and out. Like you said, Brian, understanding all those lines into various different matchups, making sure that when you sit down, all of your thought processes, decision-making, it's all optimal based on the list in your hand. Yeah, that doesn't mean that you have the right game plan to every deck, but you at least know your stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like there's been so much great content going around the community in the last couple of years. And I think that's really what has helped grow the community. And it kind of has helped make it the most competitive that it's really been. Like everybody kind of talks about like this is how it's gotten so much more competitive in the last few years, and it's because a lot of people are getting better and we kind of have to catch up too.
Well, so that's I'm gonna do back in my day, even though my day was like 2018, it wasn't that old.
Yeah.
But there were most regionals we didn't get top 128 points. Like we didn't hit 400 a lot of times. So when you go to those events, the quality of player ratio to the masses was higher. because there are
Yeah.
maybe like 60, 70 like great players there out of 350. Okay, it's a little bit tougher. But those other 280, they didn't have great deck lists. They didn't have a ton of matchup practice. They had some shenanigans. Now there are 2,500 people in an event. Maybe 100, 200 are like great players, but no one there has a bad deck list. Like everyone there knows what's everyone's list. They have a great starting point. They have data to work from, information to play from. Like you're not going to sit down and just win against someone playing Leafeon VMAX. Sorry, Aubrey. So it's tough because it's hard to win consistently.
Yeah, definitely. And I think UIC is supposed to be like really big too. I think I heard it's supposed to be like 4,000 or 5,000 people or something like that. So that's going to be something to really think about. So yeah, I'm really excited for the event.
And I think it changes to your mentality. So Brian, you were just talking about practice on the ladder. You're not going to be able to match up, I guess, matchup plan for 4,000 people.
Nope. So but, yeah, I think as long as I can get a good gauge of what the meta is kind of going to look like and recognize what my bad matchups are, the ones I'm kind of under practice for, those are the ones I can kind of focus on a little bit more.
And I think that makes sense. And by the way, if y'all can hear my son screaming in the background, that is my life. So that's why I'm here virtually and not at Nerd Rage.
Yeah, the future of energy is crying right now.
Yes, in 6 years, that baby will be on the team. So I'm actually curious for everyone in the chat too, like, what is the preparation you've seen lead to success or to failure? Because it doesn't always work out the right way. And so, Brian, what was the like big thing for you that's helped you win those games or feel more confident going into events?
Yeah, so I mean, it's always my practice. I feel like the more that I practice for an event, the better I end up doing. That's usually what I like to think. Yeah, and I think my deck choice too. If I feel like I'm picking something that is like a tier 1 deck or something that was kind of positioned well in the meta, I generally will do a lot better. Like for Toronto, for example, I picked Regidrago for that deck or for that tournament, and I think I picked the right deck for the meta. Obviously, I didn't get like the matchup roulette didn't really go in my favor, but I had a good start, and I think that I picked the right deck for the tournament. You know, for UIC, I'm going to kind of gauge it the same way and kind of pick my deck based on that as well.
Makes sense. And Arctic's asking, Brian, what is your favorite ace spec in Guardian right now?
Gardevoir right now. So haven't been playing too much Gardevoir. I've been messing around with it here and there, but I've been kind of messing around between Unfair Stamp and Secret Box.
So those are two very different ace specs.
Yeah, very different purposes. Yeah. I kind of like the Secret Box a little bit more. I think Secret Box, just because like that's kind of like Henry Chow's kind of thing, you know. It has a lot more versatility. He was talking about it on Shift Gear this past week, where it's like if you Arven for Secret Box, or Arven for Secret Box, then you can guarantee supporter for the next turn, and I think that's a really powerful sequence that you can kind of have.
Well, and also you guarantee yourself the Evo TM search, because even if you weren't able to get like a Poffin or a Vessel for an energy, if you get the Secret Box, you can get the next thing. Like you can have it all.
Definitely. Yeah, and I think playing like that slower Gardevoir is kind of like the way to play it right now as well.
I would agree. Yeah. Just set up and kind of take control of the game, because you get to control the pace then.
Yeah, and I think that kind of is like a good transition too to talk about some of the other decks that kind of benefit from playing a little bit slower. Like I think Charizard is playing a little slower with the Grand Tree. I can kind of operate in the same way because you do rely on the stage ones a lot more. Dragapult operates in that same way as well, because the Dracloaks kind of act like a refinement in a way, and you kind of play off of those stage ones as well. So being able to use all of those pieces, it like the slower gameplay is definitely what's kind of like helping in this meta.
And I think Badu is a huge piece of that. And Moshi, I think what you're saying there is a great piece of advice. I will tell everyone, play the deck that you're most comfortable with, but always with the caveat. And you said it well, Brian, if it is a tier 1 or tier 1.5.
Yeah.
Like if you are most practiced with Glamora EX, you're still probably not going to do that well with Glamora EX, because it just isn't going to have a good advantage or a good matchup into everything. But if you're better with Archaludon or say Lasso Giratina than you are with Gardevoir, even if Gardevoir is the best pick, don't play it. Play the thing you know.
Yeah, definitely. I would think the same way too, because I think of like a deck like Goldengo as that, because Goldengo has kind of been
Yeah.
hanging around like that tier 2, tier 1 area, but a lot of the people that are really good on Goldengo are like really good. Like during Toronto, I played against Little Dark Fury, awesome guy, and he destroyed me because he's very proficient on the deck. He's played it to like the last like 3 regionals that he played at.
Right.
Yeah, so he's very comfortable on the deck, and I could definitely see that from the set that we played.
And Fly, I actually, you're calling. I don't know. I always call you Fly just from Facebook, but
Yeah,
I agree. I think that prep and just knowing that deck inside and out is so valuable. And the last part, and Brian, you mentioned this too. Like, guys, I'll tell you this all the time: be willing to be wrong. Like,
yeah,
ask what you could do differently. Ask what you could do better. Like, look at it and say, "Hey, I did something wrong here because I lost 3 in a row. What
yeah,
is it? What can I do
yeah,
for it?" I do actually, Nikita. I do call him Fly in person, and
yeah,
it just flows. So sorry about
yeah,
that, Colin. You've
yeah.
apparently been renamed.
And that's actually a really good point that you bring up, because I know that like you ask that all the time. You'll ask your opponent whenever you play. It's like, is there anything that I could have done different? And I think the same way too, because like it's a good way to kind of get to know your opponent a little bit more. Think about like what
Yeah.
they do. And a lot of people do it. Like I remember when I was in Toronto, I sat next to Tord, and his opponent like straight up asked him, he's like, after the set, would you be able to give me a couple tips? And Tord was more than happy to do that. So a lot of people are willing to do that, and they just want to see people get better.
And that's I mentioned that in my stream interview in San
Yeah,
Antonio a year or so ago. Like I asked everyone, what could I have done differently? What could I have
yeah,
done better? And
hmm
even if I win when it's appropriate based on the reading the room, I
yeah,
still ask.
absolutely, yeah,
Because just because I won doesn't mean that I played perfectly or I did
hmm
everything right. Sometimes you just hit boss off of Roxanne or Iono
yeah,
or whatever. But
yeah. That's
you
true.
still want to learn how can you put yourself in a better position.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's a good benefit of our local area as well, is because I feel like every opponent I'm able to kind of talk over the game a little bit, and kind of see like what kinds of lines kind of contributed to where we got in the game.
So, and
Yeah,
actually, to hype up the community at Nerd Rage too, exactly like you're
yeah,
saying, like I agree. That's one of the reasons why I love it. We all want to see everyone else there get better. Like we all
hmm
talk about lists, we all talk about decks. Like we all have fun playing together because, dude, we're playing a game with colorful monsters. Like,
yeah,
why not try to help everyone enjoy it?
yeah, exactly,
All right,
definitely.
so Bryce is getting our next game set up here since they are just finishing the game. So the one thing I want to transition to before we got to the next round is Brian, we talked a little bit about why you're not playing for EUIC, which is Lugia. Thank
Yeah.
God. We talked about some of like the prep and practice that goes into it. So I guess what Nikita, and we're always happy to have you
Yeah,
there too, man.
yeah,
So Brian, what is the stuff guiding your deck choice going into EUIC?
yeah. So I think part of it is I guess simplicity to pick up, because if I feel like I'm making a last minute decision, um, I want something that I feel like I can pick up relatively quickly. Another thing would be like options, is like, is this a deck where, the 60's kind of already figured out, or is this something that I think I have to kind of just take a skeleton and kind of make the rest of the deck? And then a third thing would be, like if it's a fast or a slow deck, just because I feel like time is like a big part of it.
Yeah.
Like I think people can consider stuff like Miraidon, because the deck plays so fast that like you can almost guarantee, not guarantee, but almost guarantee that you'll finish all 3 games, or 2 of the 3 games pretty quickly. Like I played um, Turbo Hands to Indianapolis, and even though I didn't do that great, I finished every set with a minimum of 20 minutes to spare, so I never had to wait for a bathroom. And I think that was a really great trade-off.
Listen, there's something to be said about all the like the intangibles around
Yeah.
deck choice and stuff like
hmm
that. I apparently only play long, stretched out,
Yeah.
complicated decks
Yeah.
at this point. So my Ben Doverstein, who's one of our
Yeah.
locals, he'd play Miraidon all last season. And
Yeah.
so he would finish his round in 25 minutes at most. Like
Yeah.
3 games,
It's
maybe it's
actually
33
it's a
minutes.
game changer when you're able to kind of be like, hey, I can use the bathroom after every single round and not have to worry about waiting.
Well, and that's exactly it.
Yeah.
He'd be like there, happy, had a snack.
Yeah.
58 minutes after the round started, I walk
Yeah.
up exhausted, run to the
Yeah.
bathroom before going to the next round. Like,
I know. Like when I played at Knoxville last year, I think I had 4 rounds of Mew VMAX mirrors, and like I think like 2 of them went to ties. So I was just so exhausted from playing all those games, and I had to like wait to use the bathroom. I didn't even get to eat. Like it's
Yeah.
just a lot. Yeah.
Nikita, how did you
Yeah.
tie that
Yeah.
many Lugia games?
Yeah.
Oh,
Lugia. Yeah. And then Hoshi
I will
is
I will let you type that
confused.
story, Nikita. But
Yeah.
no, Brian, it's a good point. Like, pick a
Yeah.
deck that also fits what is like your experience at a regional. If
Yeah.
it's important to you to get that break, to get that mental. Okay, fair
Yeah.
enough, Nikita.
Yeah.
Like, play a deck that fits that.
Yeah. And then I like this message from Moshi here. Confused when he kept seeing me going to my next round being up because he finished before pairings got up.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
All
apparently
right.
Nikita slow plays.
Yeah.
Just kidding. I know you don't, Nikita. No,
Yeah.
so it's a good point, and I think there's a lot of flack around the term play style,
Yeah.
but I feel like this is where play style kind of comes in. I've
Hmm.
grown to love those like setup, checkmate, like kind of slower, have control of the game plan decks. But when I first started playing, I made everything go boom boom, and it was a lot of
Yeah.
fun.
Definitely. And I think it's cool too because you can kind of pick and choose when you want to play stuff like that. Because a lot of those decks, they may do better in best of 3, but they might not do as great in best of 1. So it's like
Yes,
it allows you to kind of pick and choose when you play those kinds of decks, which is cool.
agreed. Just don't
Yeah.
choose to play Lugia. That's
Yeah.
all I'm telling you, people. I'm mostly kidding. It's probably a
Yeah.
really good play this weekend. Just
Yeah. It probably is too, but I don't think I can bring myself to play it.
no. And so
Yeah.
you do have the advantage, though. Meridia is this weekend, so you at least get a
Yeah.
full weekend of data going into
Yeah.
EUIC. And when do you
Yeah.
leave for EUIC, by the way?
I leave Tuesday, the 18th.
Nice. Are you
Yeah, so
excited?
I am. So Trevor and I are flying out, and I think Colin's flying out around the same time too. So we're gonna have like a good crew to kind of like explore London a little bit, little pub with the boys action kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? So do a little bit of that into like our testing, and it's been a lot of fun. Traveling an extra day before the regional because
Yeah.
you can relax a little bit and you can have fun. I mean, we come to these things to have fun in the first place, so being able to enjoy the area that you're in, I think is a really fulfilling part about all the traveling we do.
Yeah. And I'd
Yeah.
recommend that. If you're going
Yeah.
to it, so my wife and I have talked about this. Part of the reason I was so excited to start Pokemon is it's an excuse to go travel and see new
Yeah.
places.
Same
I
with
would
me. Yeah.
Like, I would never have gone to Memphis. I wouldn't have gone to
Yeah.
Malmo. Like, I wouldn't
Yeah.
go to these places unless there's something cool to go do there.
I know, right? Yeah, it gives you a reason to travel and it's super fun. Yeah, absolutely.
Agreed. Well, all
Yeah.
right. So as we're looking at here, Arcdura, speaking of play style, Arcdura is actually
Arctura.
pretty close to another deck that is a big one in the meta right now. And Bryce, if you're there and could throw on the Archaludon,
Yeah.
this is one, Brian, we've talked a little bit about. Oh, we actually have our next round coming up.
Oh, yeah.
Bryce, beautiful. So we have the deck I hate versus the deck I hate.
Yeah.
This is great. This is
Lugia
perfect. This
versus
is all we
Bulma.
could ask for.
Yeah. And I
And
wonder
so,
who won the coin flip here, because in my opinion, I think Lugia going second into Raging Bolt is so good.
so why is that? I would agree. But why
Yeah,
is that?
because you have a lot of opportunities to force up to like one prizers on the board, so they can't use stuff like bundle. Like pretty much they would have to hit like prime catcher or like Pokemon catcher in order to like feast a two prizer, but you can like really like force a one prizer into active and throw off their prize trade.
And that makes a
Yeah,
ton of sense. And also, you just care about getting your V Star off like your
yeah,
second turn, whatever that
yeah.
second turn is.
Yeah, and it gives you the opportunity to do stuff like read the wind. It lets you play Squawk Plus. You can do the Jacques and Squawk play where you can, get two Archeops like guaranteed.
Shock and squawk.
Yeah, I learned that one from Kieran. Shout out to Kieran Farah. Um, there's just a lot of cool things you can do going second. And then like now that you have the Regigigas, the Regigigas is so good into this matchup.
Yes, that makes sense because you mentioned Regigigas, even with 2 double turbos, one
Yeah.
shots a teal mask.
Yeah, it one shots a Teal Mask. And it's great too because even if you have 2 double turbos, you can still one shot a Teal Mask.
That is
Yeah,
fantastic. Oh, and
definitely.
so this is a good question. Brian, would you have attached that legacy?
I would. Yeah.
Okay.
I think as long as you have some sort of way to throw off the prize trade, that's really all you can ask for. Because there's definitely been times that I've won this matchup by not using Lugia V-Star or Summoning Star.
And that makes sense. All right, so we do see from Alex's side, we do get that Earthen Vessel, getting rid of the fighting energy. I saw I was distracted momentarily. Tim was messaging in the chat about his prizes, and I just let him know that I was as nice as I could be. So we do see Alec go in, discard that energy with Earthen Vessel, get a couple energy on the deck. We're going to be able to draw at least one with Teal Mask Ogerpon. Yep. And Brian, did you get a look at Alex's hand? Are we cooking?
I think we are. I mean, the fan call is fine. You can get like the Hoot Hoots and the Noctiles and all of that. I didn't really see too much of the rest of the hand. I saw there was a lot of energy in there.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So we see 2 Hoot Hoots and a Fan Rotom come out. As a note, you can only use 1 Fan Rotom ability per game, essentially.
Yeah.
So, okay. So then we've got the Teal Mask. We're going to be able to Seal Dance. We've got the Hoot Hoots. We got just a whole lot of energy in there otherwise.
Yeah, I think one reason to grab the Fan Rotom here as well is just because in this situation, as long as you Teal attach, and then you attach to the Fan Rotom, you can knock out this Minccino.
That is true. And I think Alex kind of looking at that play. And by the way, the reason we got the Fan Rotom is there are 2 Noctiles in Alex's hand already.
Yeah.
Are we... there are many small creatures in my home that are very vocal.
Jasper's yapping.
Jasper is yapping. All right, so we see the Fan Rotom knockout of the Minccino. Alec goes in.
All right.
Research?
There's research double chops in the hand. This is fire.
That is disgusting, to be honest.
Yeah.
Is there a downside to attaching this gift?
No, I think you have to because you're going to end up playing research anyways.
True.
Yeah. I don't think there's a better energy that you can kind of put on there.
Yeah, I think this is tough because Adam so badly wanted to gust up that Teal Mask Ogerpon, but just could not afford to do so based on his hand.
Yeah.
So now things are a little interesting, Brian, because Adam's going to have to take a single prize knockout here. And Adam is not going to have access to Iron Hands. So how does he make it work?
Yeah, I think, well, the trade-off to that is when this Lugia V-Star gets knocked out, he's only going to give up 1 prize for that as well. So,
true.
Yeah, so I think it's okay here. It's good to get rid of the Iron Hands here. And I think like stuff like the Regigigas and Minccino line will be able to kind of carry the rest of the game. And Ursaluna as well.
And I think it's a good point because even though Alec goes up 1 prize, well, I say that this is actually tough because Alec will be able to go down to, assuming a knockout happens here, either 2 or 4 or 3 prizes remaining.
Yeah.
And then Adam is only going to be at 5 prizes, so he's going to have to figure out a way to accelerate the game. And I don't know if Lugia has a way to do that without Iron Hands.
Yeah. It's a little tough, but it kind of banks on Alec kind of like whiffing it like 1 turn at least.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
proper use of the Ursaluna too.
Yes. And I think Ursaluna can be a big attacker here because 260 is not easy to get over except for Raging Bolt.
I mean, I've definitely won games where I Ursaluna, jet the Ursaluna, and I didn't even Summoning Star the whole game, and you just win. You win the game that way.
Which it works. That's fair.
It's doable. You got to play to your outs.
All right, so we have double Noctowl available for Alec and Prime Catcher.
Yeah, this is fire. So this is why this build is cool because you can just Jewel Seeker for like a Nest Ball and Sada, and like you can just start like attaching like crazy.
So the other thing we can do, which is hilarious, is we can use Fan Rotom to knock out that Minccino.
Yeah, you can also do that too.
Because we have the Prime Catcher. And there's not we could spend a crap ton of resources setting up this Raging Bolt to knock out a Lugia for 1 prize, or you just knock out this Minccino and then go after whatever else Adam benches, unless there's another line you see.
Yeah, so I'm not too mad about that. And looking from Adam's side, I think his next move is he's gonna want to find a 2 prize, try to find a way to knock out like the Ogerpon.
Yes.
Anyways, so as long as he draws into some sort of gust, he does have Lumineon, which can guarantee it, but you don't want to put that down if you don't have to.
Right.
But yeah, there's definitely ways for him to kind of get around that.
I think that's the only downside to having this Legacy Energy go down turn 1 is just it limits what other attackers you can use for the rest of the game.
Yeah. definitely. And I do want Adam to kind of keep this Lugia in play as long as he can, because there's a lot of power in being able to knock out the Area Zero.
I
Because
would
there's
agree.
going to be a point in the game where Alex really going to be relying on that Area Zero, and as long as Lugia is in play, Lugia is going to be able to knock that out.
And I actually love getting this Pheasantipity here
Yeah,
in order
definitely.
to continue to draw before using that last knockdown.
Yeah, absolutely. Because like you want to be able to hold on to the Noctowl until you like absolutely need a certain card.
And that's all where the proper sequencing comes in. Make the decisions you need to make last with as much information available as possible.
Yep, definitely.
And so we're actually going to be able to see another Raging Bolt come down if we want to, using the
Yeah,
second Noctowl.
definitely. I do want that because I always like being able to maximize the power and the usage of Sada. Because I mean, if you're able to attach to one of each ancient, you might as well if you can. Yeah, it kind of
Yeah,
feels like a waste if you're only attaching to one and then drawing three.
I would completely agree.
Yeah,
And so being able to set up then so that way when you do see those big two prizers come down for Adam, because Adam's going to have to put them down, you're
yeah,
able to close them out very quickly.
yep, definitely.
All right, so we do see the Ultra Ball come down. Gotta imagine we're getting a Raging Bolt here. So then, do you Sada? Do you Prime Catcher? What are we seeing here?
I think we Sada first. It's kind of like what we were talking about in that first game where we're trying to search through most of the deck first before we commit to our play. So I think that's the big takeaway that we kind of had from that first game. And we're going to kind of try to speak that into existence.
That's fair. Yes.
Yeah.
All right, and then so for the one thing I would have liked to see Alec do is get rid of that fighting energy to put a fighting on both. But I guess if you keep the fighting energy in hand, you can attach them. Okay. I just talked myself back out of it. Sorry, Brian.
Yeah, you're okay. Um, yeah, so I think this plays fine here so far. There's no Area Zero yet, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
We do have Prime Catcher though,
Oh, we're
so
going for the Prime Catcher here.
which I don't disagree with. And to be
Yeah,
honest, I kind of want to see you Prime Catcher and Archeops.
yeah, definitely.
We do see the Minchino. I guess what do you think about that play, Brian?
I'm not too mad at it because I know Adam recognizes he can work around it, right? Like he can take two prizes off of something like Pheasantipity, two prizes off of like Ogerpon. So there's definitely options on what he can do.
Yes, I would agree.
Yeah.
And it looks like I don't know if we have Gust in hand yet.
Oh, no Gus in hand yet.
We do have Luminion, but
Yeah.
I really don't think Adam wants to bench Luminion
No,
right
I
now.
don't think so either.
So
I think another play that I wouldn't be too mad at is playing Weirdeer here.
really, so why is
Yeah,
that?
because Weirdeer is going to be able to take a clean knockout into the Raging Bolt, and that's what you kind of still want to do. And it preserves the legacy energy as well. So as long as the legacy energy is somewhere on the board, it could definitely be helpful. And it keeps the Lugia in play too. So like you attach all like a bunch of energy to the Weirdeer. If you have Jet it up, knockout, it's going to get return knocked out, and then you can use Lugia as another attacker again to take two more prizes.
I think that actually makes a ton of sense. Or we can
Yeah.
bear. Bear
Yeah,
is also great.
I also like Bear here too. Bear here is good. I usually like to have Bear as like my final two prizes, but if I see an angle for Weirdeer, I'm usually gonna force the Weirdeer play.
And I think that makes sense.
Yeah,
So does Alec play Briar is my only question.
I believe he does.
Okay.
Yeah,
So then Alex still has an opportunity to win the game, not the next turn, but the following
yeah,
turn, if he loads up energy on that Teal Mass Ogrepon and
yeah,
one shots an Archeops or something.
yeah. I think my issue with playing Briar and Raging Bolt is it's a lot harder to get that Ogerpon as like a reliable attacker compared to something like Regidrago, where like you're able to E-switch to the Ogerpons.
Yes.
But yeah, it's definitely a viable option. It's just one that I don't really think is as great.
So we're actually going to see the Luminion and boss come down. Why do you think so, Brian?
Yeah, I think he's still going to try to force the gust here, just to take out something like the Pheasantipity is what I would hope he would take out. And I do like the bear coming down here as well because you don't want like to search out for the bear and just get disrupted away from your hand.
So I think there could have been an argument for taking out the Teal Mass Ogrepon, not the
Hmm.
Fezandipity, just because you turn off Noctowl.
Yeah, that's
Granted,
fair.
the Fez does get you 3 cards, but why do you think the Fez is better than turning off Noctowl, or at least trying
Yeah,
to?
I think just having 3 cards in general could definitely change the way that you approach a turn. Um, so that's why I would just go straight up with the Pheasantipity. Yeah,
Arctic, just because I saw your question now, I think the reason Alec went in with the Raging Bolt is because it forces Adam to put down a different attacker to take a one shot on it. If he
yeah,
does go in with the Fan Rotom, Adam can leave only single prizers and a single prize equivalent with Lugia down, take a knockout to get back on even prizes, and kind of put Alec in a tough spot.
yeah.
All right, so we see the Bolt come up. All right, Brian, what's Alec doing?
Yeah, I think he needs to find a Bravery Charm here. Bravery Charm in this deck is really good into Lugia just because, um, I mean, it makes stuff like Bear almost irrelevant.
And that's a good
Yeah,
point because that 240 is a very, very clean number for Bear, but
yeah.
290, like you said,
290s.
Word Ear is about
Yeah,
the only thing that can hit it aside
yeah,
from Centino.
yeah. And both of those Minchinos have gotten knocked out already. I don't think Adams updated his list fully, so I don't know if he's playing Regigigas, but if he was, that would be like the perfect way to end the game too.
So does he play Thornton?
Might play Thornton. I
So,
would hope he plays Thornton. I know Adam's a big Thornton guy.
so Thornton could be really interesting because then
Yeah.
Lat Luminion is much less of a liability.
Yeah, because you can turn it into Bear if Bear gets knocked out. Yeah.
Exactly. Or
Yeah.
you turn it into Minchino.
Yeah, you can do that as well. Yeah, there's a lot of things you can kind of do with it.
All right, so we see the Sada come down, which is good, but it's not a
Yeah,
gust.
it is not a gust.
All right, so then we do have the knockdowns. We're going to be able to get gust. We're going to be able to reach on basically anything on the bench. So, Brian, what's Alex's best move here?
I want him to put down the Greninja. I want him to kind of search out the deck a little bit more and see if he can kind of naturally draw into a gust. I feel like that's probably the one of the better ways to do it. Um,
Well, it kind of looks like we're declining to go get the boss.
yeah,
Any
'cause-
reason why?
yeah,
I know you and I are both kind of like
yeah.
stunned here of like,
I
but
think
why?
I don't know if Alec plays like Pokemon catcher. That could be like a possibility.
And so I think that could be
Yeah.
it. But Pokemon Catcher is still a flip.
Yeah,
So
it is a flip. Yeah.
why play the supporter before you know whether or not you're going to be able to take advantage?
Yeah. That's a
I don't
good
know.
question. Yeah.
If anyone
I
in the
know where you're
chat
coming
has
from.
insight that I don't, please share.
Yeah.
All right, so Brian, pending this being the decision, what do you think is the move for Alec here?
I think he's just going for the knockout on the Lugia here.
Just
Yeah.
to get that one prize, remove a main
Yeah.
attacker, go
I
from
think
there.
so. Yeah. I wonder if Alec also plays Bravery Charms as well. Because I feel like
Uh,
if you have charms, you should like search them out from the Noctowl.
I would tend to agree.
Yeah.
Does Alec think he's taking 2 prizes here is the question.
I would hope he knows that he's not.
I would also agree with
Yeah.
that. But I mean, I wonder if maybe that was the reasoning for taking that route.
Yeah. Well, we'll find out once there's the promotion that hits here. All right, one prize was taken.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
I like this.
And we had Bear come up, able to one-shot this Raging Bolt, and suddenly Adam's in a really good spot.
Yeah,
And so
definitely.
Alec does not really have a good, clean way to use Briar.
Yeah,
There are multiple 2 prize liabilities on the board. Like, Adam was able to, with that legacy energy, steal his way back in from kind of a weak start compared to what he
yeah.
wanted.
And Briar also wouldn't go into effect if Adam also takes 2 prizes here, because there's no way he gets the
True.
2. Yeah,
Yeah, that is very true. And yeah,
Yeah.
so Adam's just gonna be able to rip a research.
yeah, definitely.
And that's also a big deal then because now he's gonna have a full hand to work with. He'll be able to find another attacker to set up. Dude, we're cruising.
Yeah, definitely.
So one
Yeah,
thing that's kind of silly is if Adam had been able to preserve that legacy energy for someone else, we could have actually closed the game with a water veil. But
yeah, definitely.
all right, so then Brian, what's Adam doing the rest of this turn?
I think he's just setting up another attacker here. I think he's looking to see if he could get like, oh, um, if the Thornton's in there, if he plays it. I don't think he plays Thornton, but I guess he's looking to thin out the deck a little bit more and see what he has left.
Which makes sense
Yeah.
because if Alec does go up with a Raging Bolt, Adam needs to either reach it with a Wordy or something, or
Yeah.
gust up one of the weaker guys on the bench.
Yeah, and I think he has enough double turbos to where Weird Ear is still like a realistic option.
I would agree. And I see
Yeah.
that Adam is deciding to spread out some energy on the board. So that
Yeah, I
way,
do like that play as well.
yeah, even if an Archeops gets knocked out, he
Yeah.
can still clean up.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
like
he
you
does
said,
play Gigas. Yeah, he plays Gigas.
all right. So Bear goes in, knocks out the Raging Bolt. Alec, 3 prizes remaining. How does he win this game?
I don't know actually. I think he would like have to see if I feel like there's like a little bit of merit of maybe stalling out the bear.
That's true
Yeah,
because it
because it
can't
can't
attack
attack.
this next turn.
Yeah, I think there's some merit in that.
So the tricky
Yeah.
part is, like you said, if there are charms, knocking out an Archeops, I think, could be the move here. If you're able to Pokemon Catcher and then Iono. But
Yeah.
if you're not able to do that, man, I don't know what the right route is here.
Yeah, I don't know either. It's tough because I mean that legacy energy really changed how this game kind of went. And especially that it was a legacy energy on a 2-prizer.
Yes.
Yeah, so it put Alec on odd prizing.
And it was a big deal because that 2-prizer was able to take knockouts. It wasn't just a like 2-shotting or just trying to slow down the game. It was
It was like a
legitimately able
legitimate,
to
yeah, it
advance the
was able
game
to
plan.
knock out. Yeah, and I think another thing with Alex's game plan too is we didn't get to see the Area Zero do its like full effect as well.
So we do have a
Yeah,
bravery
we
charm,
do
but you're
have
right.
bravery
We did
charms.
not.
Yeah, I feel like because you can Jewel Seeker for charm, right? As long as it's a trainer.
Yeah, it's a trainer
Yeah,
card.
it's a trainer card. You should be able to. So I think like he should have searched out that bravery charm a little bit earlier because now all Adam needs is Gust, and since he's playing Sada, I mean there's another Lumineon in there, so that pretty much guarantees the win.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so we see the attachment come down. We see the Area Zero come down.
Yeah.
And I believe we did take the Latios off the prizes. And we have a Judge. And that could actually be huge.
Yeah, Judge could be huge too, but I mean, granted, if this bear gets knocked out, I mean, you're still drawing 7, up to 7 anyways.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the hope for Alec has to be either knock out the bear or knock out one of the Archeops, ideally, and just
Yeah,
kind of stick at him.
definitely. The
And
Judge is
Arctic, I
interesting.
agree.
Yeah.
If Adam whiffs, Briar could steal Alec the win here, but actually, no, yeah, you
No,
can't
he
Briar.
can't.
There's only
Yeah,
one
he can't
prize left.
Briar. There's only one prize. Yeah. So I
But
think that
Brian's
was,
done something wise.
yeah.
All right, and so we have the Ultra Ball 2 for Lumineon. So this is going to be about all she wrote for Adam here, or for Alec.
Yeah. I think you need to start. No, start Lumineon. Start Lumineon. Oh, if you're gonna go for the weird ear.
Oh, we forgot to draw off to gift 2. Okay, and evolution.
Oh, what are we doing here? Oh, I think he's
I'm
trying to
not sure.
just. Oh, I think he's gonna go for like a Lumineon play and then. Oh, okay. No, we don't need to take 2 prizes here. You just need a gust. You just need a
Yeah.
gust like a hoot hoot.
So does Adam have Gust left in deck? Is the question.
Yeah.
And
Where are we looking? Oh,
I do see
yeah,
the
he
boss.
does.
Yeah.
He
All right.
does.
Perfect. So we see the boss.
Yeah.
Attach the jet. Gust up a
Yep.
little owl, and there we go.
Yeah, there we go. Clean.
It was beautiful. Lugia, best deck in format.
All right, and that was a pretty clean game, honestly. Like, it's not like the typical like 2-2-2 prize map. You kind of have to sometimes, go a little out of the box and kind of find out another way to win. And I think both players kind of figured out what they kind of had to do. It was just the execution from Adam's side was a little bit better.
And Arctic,
Yeah.
I agree. I think that's what
Yeah.
you have to do is try to
Yeah.
figure it out when things get messy.
Mm-hmm.
So, Brian, is that what you typically see in playing Lugia? That you kind of rely heavily on that legacy energy to
Yeah,
mess up the
legacy
opponent's game
energy.
plan?
Yeah, legacy energy wins you the game pretty much. Yeah,
That's insane to me that a
yeah,
single card is like the game-winning
yeah,
card or not.
yeah. I think it's kind of similar to like the Ancient Box matchup because when you play like against Ancient Box's Lugia, the legacy energy on the Lugia V Star pretty much makes it that you're playing. It's like a completely single prize board. Yeah,
Which is disgusting when one of your
yeah,
single prizers has 280 HP and one shots
yeah.
everything.
Exactly. Yeah,
It's absolutely wild.
yeah.
Um,
So yeah, definitely.
no, so I was going to say, so we're talking a little bit about EUIC prep. We've talked a
Yeah,
little bit about kind of our deck selection. Brian, I know we talked a little bit before about some good topics to bring up. What you got on the
yeah,
list for us?
yeah. So let's go with that Archaludon list that we're
Yeah.
gonna look at before.
Wait, Jolly Arc Tina? While we're pulling that up, and Bryce, if you can
Yeah,
pull that up, I've actually been playing a lot of Lost Tina.
yeah,
And let me
dude.
tell you,
Lost
it's
that Lost Tina list is actually kind of fire.
it
I got
is
I got I got cooked by it last week because someone went because I played against my buddy Keon and he went double Mirage Gate onto a Regigigas and he knocked out my Charizard.
yep, that's
Yeah,
yep.
it's it like blew my mind. I was like, I didn't think you could do that. And it
Well,
plays
with
Crispin too, and the Crispin's kind of fire too because as long as you attach to Greninja, you can Greninja the next turn. Oh, it's so fire.
dude, it's been
Yeah,
fun. I've been playing a lot
yeah,
with it. It is legitimately a fun deck. And I think it's
yeah,
good enough to compete, but I probably wouldn't play it to
yeah. I wouldn't either.
anywhere.
I think there's a lot of moving pieces with it. I feel like if you gave me 2 months to prepare for it with it, maybe.
Right. Well, all right.
But
So, Brian, tell
yeah,
us about Big Scary Metal Bridge because this is something we've talked a little bit about a reasonable option for EUIC.
yeah, the NRG Dura Demons, they're
Yes,
back.
that is true.
Yeah,
For those who don't know, apparently Nerd Rage Gaming for a long time, you had to play Arcdura in order to be here.
you had to
So
be a Duraludon guy.
our meta was like 60% Arcdura. I'm
Yeah,
exaggerating, but not by that much. So,
yeah.
Brian, what is this deck? Why is this a reasonable option?
Yeah, so it's a very self-sufficient attacker. The Assemble Alloy ability from Archaludon EX allows the Archaludon to accelerate 2 metal energies to any metal Pokemon. So, I mean, as long as you have an attachment for turn, you can Metal Defender for 220, and that 220 is pretty relevant. It knocks stuff out like Miraidon, I mean, like Dialga, Arceus, stuff like that that have the 220 or below HP, or like Latias EX, Fez, all that stuff. So, and it's got 300 HP, so very relevant numbers. And then the Dialga V-Star line helps out with like the single prize matchups and allows you to take multiple prizes within the 2 turns that you get with the Star Chronos V-Star ability.
Yes.
Yeah,
And that Star Chronos ability, like Dialga had its own deck with Metang that won a
yeah,
regional. So it's very strong
it's a
attack.
very
And
viable attack. Yeah,
I think it's so much better to have it as a complementary piece of a deck, though, rather than the only thing you can do.
yeah, definitely. I think the Relicanth is cool too because if someone tries to go with like they're trying to two-shot the Archaludon EX, the Memory Dive ability lets you to copy the other attack from the Duraludon, which
Yes.
is Raging Hammer, which does 80 damage and then 10 more for each damage counter on the Pokemon. So pretty powerful. I mean, it's pretty like linear deck, so it has a very set way that it wins games, and stuff like Turo and Scoop Up Cyclone allow you to kind of recycle the Duraline and help to accelerate more energy.
Well, the Raging Hammer was much bigger deal into something like Regidrago,
Yeah,
because if you hit it with Dragapult or something like that for 200, it hits
yeah,
you back for 280 and one
yeah,
shots you. So
exactly.
super
And that's
relevant there.
another thing too is that this has an insanely good Regidrago matchup.
It does.
Yeah,
Little less important now as
yeah,
Regidrago's moved out, but it also helps a ton into Lugia. Because
yeah,
if Lugia hits
definitely.
you for 220, you one shot it right back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Or Bear hits you for 240, one shot it right back.
Yep, exactly. So there's a lot of relevant math that goes with this deck. Um, I probably wouldn't play the Badu in my version. I think you kind of want to have consistency cards. Like you want to be able to draw into stuff like Research, Earthen Vessel, Nest Ball, stuff like that, like most turns. But honestly, it's super solid deck, and I've been having a lot of fun playing it.
So, what do you think about
Yeah.
because this is the interesting part. I know you and I have talked about a 2-2 line. What do you think about the 1-2 Dialga line?
Yeah, I think it's cool. Because like the Ditto and the Thornton kind of help with it. But I still like the idea of having the 2-2 because sometimes there are times where decks will respect the Dialga. And you'll have to place down 2 of them on the bench just so you
Yeah.
can guarantee that you have it on there.
Well, and
Yeah,
also Thornton is a really cool card, but I wouldn't want to have to rely on it in order to
yeah,
get my like attacker back into the game.
yeah, yeah, definitely. And I think a 4th Night Stretcher is also very necessary just because it doesn't run any other recovery. So being able to kind of just Night Stretcher for an Archaludon, Night Stretcher for Fez, those can be really important things to do as well.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
And so, Bryce, can you throw up the other Archaludon list? I'm never going to say this one correctly because I think, Brian, Dialga, everyone knows how good Dialga is.
yeah,
Dialga is insane. Like the V-Star attack is so good. But this is actually a list that is built off of one that did pretty well in, shoot, what was the regional recently? In San Antonio.
yeah.
So we even saw a win-in to day 2 included Archaludon with this Bayonet. And dude, this Bayonet is cool.
Yeah, it's cool. I remember this deck was there. The Bayonet line was kind of used a little bit at EUIC last year when Isaiah Bradner was playing Giratina. So it's cool because it allows you to grab a supporter back, and in turn you put the Bayonet in the loss zone. So being able to grab a supporter from discard, pretty good if you need like a boss to win the game, or another crazy thing that Black Belt's training.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
Black
so
Belt's training.
what Black Belt's training does is I
Yeah.
believe it increases the damage done to your opponent's active EX by 40.
Yeah, so I have the card here because I'm trying to build the deck. It says during this turn, attacks used by your Pokemon do 40 more damage to opponent's Pokemon EX, and that with the Relicanth copy, you can do some pretty big damage with that.
Well, that's the thing. They
Yeah,
were just talking in chat about Dragapult. So Dragapult
yeah,
hits you for 200.
yeah,
You Raging Bolt or Raging Hammer for
yeah,
280 plus 40 from Black Belts. You're
yep,
one-shotting a stage 2 EX.
yeah. And I remember all the boys were asking in the group chat who had Black Belts training, and I was like, oh man, what are we cooking here? But it's fire.
Hey, listen, Karen's
Yeah.
Conviction was an Arctura for a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, they're
Yeah.
legitimately being able to fix math with a single card is really good.
Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned Karen's Conviction because that's my favorite card of all time.
Wait, is it really?
Yeah, I played it. I played it to my first regional at Fort Wayne, and I knocked out an Eternatus VMAX with Dura VMAX with with Karen's Conviction.
That's so sick. How upset was your opponent?
Yeah, they had no idea what was going on.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Well,
Karen's
so and
Conviction was fire.
that's
I
actually
also
been one
played
of the.
that. Yeah, I also played it in Single Strike Lugia.
Oh God, I
Yeah.
just. Okay, that's sick.
Yeah,
That's
it's such a fire
very
card. I miss
sick.
it so much.
Okay, well, I didn't expect that coming, but
Yeah.
all right. So one of the sorry, getting back on track. So the math on this Metal Defender, like 220, is
Yeah.
wonderful until it's not. Because
Yeah.
there are a ton of things that have 230, 240. And so
Yeah.
modifying that damage is a big thing. And so this deck includes Vitality Band too, which is kind of funky, but it seems pretty good.
Yeah, I do like the Vitality Band because, there's stuff like Roaring Moon that has 230 HP, same with Terrapagos EX. So being able to kind of get that over that small hump to get the knockout, I think is very relevant as well.
Well, it's also
Yeah.
relevant into Iron Hands. Because I
Yes.
think Iron Hands is a threat against this deck where if they can
Yeah.
hands back to back and you don't kill it, it's so hard to come back
Yeah.
from that.
There's been times where I've been thrown off. Another one of our locals, Josh Philippe, plays this deck and he plays it with Practice Studio. It's a stadium that
Yes.
lets stage ones do 10 more damage, so it knocks out Iron Hands. So I don't know if that's the way to play it, but it's another option.
I don't know if that's the way to play it either, but that's
Yeah,
really cool.
it's
I
it's
like
funny.
it.
Yeah, I like it.
That's sick. All right. So
Yeah.
we've got a couple decks available still. So for those in the chat, if there's something you want to see, want us to talk about, like let us
Yeah,
know.
let us know. We're definitely down to because it kind of helps me figure out what to play for this event too.
Well, so Bryce, you can go ahead and throw the deck list off and us back up. But that was actually going to be my next question.
Yeah.
Is Lugia sucks? Don't play it. Just kidding. It's really good. Like
Yeah.
Bridge is really cool.
Yeah.
Like Lost Tina is not good, but it's so cool.
It's
So
cool. Yeah.
what is your thought process for? Oh God, Nikita, we don't have time. I can. Oh, we could go
Oh,
back to topic.
yeah.
So how do you go about picking the deck you play?
Yeah, I think one is something that I enjoy playing. I kind of want to have fun playing my deck at the event. So if it's something that I enjoy playing, I think I'll have a better time at the event. I think that's like a kind of important thing. And then another one is like how well placed something is in the meta. So like for example, like if Miraidon just won a regional, there's a good chance I might consider Charizard for the next event because Charizard has historically had a good matchup into Miraidon, right? Or
Yeah.
same with like, if Lugia just won a tournament, you might have to respect it a little bit more. You might have to consider like maybe I should play a deck that has an Iron Thorns in it, or I should play Miraidon. So there's a lot of things that kind of go into it. Like I feel like recency bias is kind of like a big thing. And I think whatever wins the Merida regional is going to be a good play going into EUIC.
And I think it's that like meta cycle
Yeah,
of
it's like a
how
triangle.
right. How far
Yeah.
ahead of the curve are you? Are you at
Yeah.
the we're countering? Are you at the we're countering the counters? Are you back at the best deck in format? And kind of picking the right one. So
Yeah.
Jolly, Poison Terrapagos, that is a fascinating deck. And Brian, do you know much about that one?
I would think it's kind of like a cloth Terrapagos that uses like the mochi as like a
It
damage
does,
modifier. Yeah.
but the wrinkle is it actually uses Budu as the primary attacker.
Oh,
So if you poison
oh,
Budu and then put the mochi on it, you are hitting for 50 base, and then you apply poison modifier with
yeah. Oh, with like
Sneasler.
Sneasler. Yeah.
So you're basically hitting for 80 with
Yeah.
item lock, and then damage coming back into the turn. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's not bad too. Yeah, I think that's a cool little kind of like concept. It kind of reminds me of when the Petulant, the baby Petulant could kind of get those can kind of cheat out those free donk wins against
Yes,
anything that
yes.
starts like a really small Pokemon.
I hate
Yeah.
that thing. I have gotten
Yeah.
donked by it multiple times,
Yeah.
and I do not love that.
I
But
know. It's not fun.
wait, fly, speak to us.
Yo,
My goodness.
Ditto with boofs copying Budu.
So to translate into full English there, Budu attaches attacks for 0 energy, 10 damage item locks. Ditto has an ability that allows it to use any of the attacks of basic Pokemon in the discard pile as long as you have sufficient energy. In this case,
Yeah.
energy 0. Bouffalant, if there are 2 Bouffalant in play, reduces damage done to your colorless Pokemon by 60. So in other words, you have to hit this Ditto for 130 damage or more in order to knock it out. That's gross.
Yeah. Oh, did you see that list that's been going around in EU of the guy playing Arceus Dusk Noir?
Someone was just talking about that in the chat a little
Yeah,
earlier.
the Arceus Dusk Noir that plays 4 Roxannes.
God,
It's kind of wild.
that's so
It's
gross.
the Arceus V Star is pretty much only used just for Starbirth. It's like your main attackers are Dusk Noir and Ursaluna.
That's so sad.
Yeah.
Okay. So that may be something we have to try out.
Yeah.
Yes. So that honestly, if y'all can make the Budu, Ditto, Bouffalants work, please show up to locals with that. We will put that
Yeah.
on stream in
Oh,
a heartbeat.
absolutely. Absolutely.
I know Olive has talked a lot about Arceus as being a deck she just loves to her heart,
Yeah.
but not good enough to play.
I know. I miss my glorious King Arceus as well.
I know. Arceus
Yeah.
Corviknight, it was the deck.
Yeah.
It was my baby.
Yeah.
So and there was another one that came up here that I wanted to scroll back and see. So I do think Arctic, you said this a little bit earlier. I do think Guardy is possibly the absolute best deck in format
Yeah.
and the best play.
Yeah. I think so too. And I kind of going back to our discussion about like that triangle of like what counters it. A lot of people were kind of considering Miraidon because if you're able to kind of get started against Gardevoir, you can kind of run over Gardevoir.
Yes.
Yeah.
That deck actually has an extremely good Guardy matchup, and not a lot of other stuff does.
Yeah, but it's actually not as good as people really think because the really good Gardevoir players, they definitely can sauce the Miraidon players. Yeah.
And that's it. It's you have to accelerate the game so that way
Yeah.
in that time to follow, you're able to catch up enough and
Yeah.
you're able to sustain because they're gonna unfair stamp you. I don't know. And can you win before they finally do
Yeah.
everything?
Right.
Yes, Mawile also real good into Miraidon.
Yeah.
All right, so we do have our next game coming up. We have Lugia versus Regidrago V-Star. And I'm gonna be honest with y'all,
Yeah.
I did not expect Regidrago to still be hanging out.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I feel like when you have a deck that's able to copy dragons and a lot of very powerful dragons like Dragapult, Giratina V-Star, stuff like that, I feel like your deck's gonna be good for a pretty long while. I don't know. Were you playing Dan when like Mew 3 was like a good deck?
I was actually. So
Yeah,
that was my second year of
yeah.
being really competitive.
And was Mew 3 like relevant till it rotated out?
Oh, it was incredible. Like
Yeah,
it
so I
was,
would compare it to kind of like that, right?
yeah. And so
Yeah,
Mew 3's had a little different trajectory from Regidrago, where
yeah,
Regidrago wasn't really good until later on in its life. Mew
yeah,
3 was the best deck for an extended period of time at the front end, and then kind of tailed off as new sets came out and as we
yeah,
transitioned to Sword and Shield.
yeah. Good to know.
All right, so then Brian, this matchup, Regidrago versus Lugia, I know who I think is favored. What do you think is favored?
I think whoever goes first is favored.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, I think yeah, whoever goes first is favored, or whoever takes the first two prizes. And it also kind of depends on text and stuff like that too, because I typically would say Lugia is favored, but you know if Drago's playing stuff like Temple of Sinnoh, that stuff could also be very relevant as well.
And I think that's
Yeah,
really a key point is
yeah,
Lugia is able to, I think, reach and take out threats on Regidrago's side so much more easily than Regidrago is able to. And that is a
yeah.
Crispin we are
That is a
seeing in
Crispin.
Regidrago.
That is a Crispin, and I think the Crispin that's actually kind of fire because as long as you get an attachment on the first turn, you can get as long as you get like a grass attachment, you can attach fire and grass. I think yeah, the next turn.
You can,
Yeah, which can be
which
that's
is
very
pretty
cool.
cool.
Yeah, that is pretty cool.
All right, so then Alfredo honestly has a pretty good start,
Yeah.
even with research in hand too. So probably not going to end up using that Crispin. But then
Oh, Ultra Ball
for
double chops. This is fire.
that's what else do you need?
Yeah, you don't really need much else. I think you go double Lugia V though.
I
I
think you
think you
kind of have to in this
yeah, I think you have
scenario.
to I think you have to respect the turn two attack.
The only other option I would say is yeah, I could absolutely see that comparison, Arctic. And yeah,
Yeah.
I think you're kind of aligned with what we were saying of it's just a very similar pull from the discard and give you a ton of flexibility.
Yeah. I feel
So
like any deck that's able to copy attackers is historically going to be good.
yes. And so
Yeah.
Brian, here's my question.
Yeah.
Do you research or do you just get the Lugia?
Um ooh, that is a good question here because I gotta look at the hand again.
So
If
there's nothing. So I
yeah,
honestly think you kind of have to research here, even though
yeah,
you would like to just get the Lugia.
yeah,
Oh, apparently not.
yeah.
So
The
why do you think
greedy,
Adam is going for the Lugia?
yeah, I think he doesn't want to put another liability on the board, and I think as long as he's able to I think he's because he's recognizing that he could just use Mezagoza again,
And
so
do
that
we
could be another
have
option.
an energy?
I don't see an energy here. Ooh, I do like this.
Oh,
I like this.
okay. Interesting. All right. So we see grass energy off the top, which is great. We see research, Crispin. We see the teal dance.
Yeah,
Okay. So Alfredo's gaming here.
yeah, definitely.
So then what do you think is the move for him?
Um, so I've always been of the opinion that you need to really um try not to use your V star till like the very end of the game. But as long as you're not forcing the V star, I think you're fine here. Yeah, play the research, see what you can kind of get. Um,
I don't know why we put Tina in the Lost Zone, but no, it's fine.
yeah,
It's fine. It's all fine.
I think it's the to track the dragons. I think the better way would be to put it by
Oh, that
discard.
makes sense. Well,
Yeah,
so speaking of, we're going to get rid
yeah,
of Haxorus and Gudra here off this Ultra Ball, and that is
yeah,
insanely good.
yeah. Haxorus is kind of wild here.
And the Prime Catcher, I guess we could retreat pretty easily anyway, but man, that is a
Yeah,
good pickup.
yeah, definitely. So I'm wondering what he's gonna grab here. Maybe like second Drago if he's got Mew, Dragapult. There's a lot of good options here that you can kind of grab.
I think he needs to figure out a way to keep digging if he wants to attack this turn.
Yeah.
So, or maybe we end up just passing over. What do you think?
Um, so I'm not opposed to the passing over. I feel like though, if Adam's able to high roll and get a heads off the V star or draw into a V star, then it kind of just runs away with it.
I agree. And so we do have
Yeah.
an E switch in hand, it looks like, unless that's a switch.
Don't see what it is yet.
Oh, we are going to V star.
Oh, he's gonna go for the V star. Don't totally agree with that play, but
I very
Yeah.
totally don't agree with it, but you know what?
Yeah.
What do I know?
Yeah.
Okay, so we do find the E-switch, though, which is
Yeah.
really good. Oh, that is a switch in the hand.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the V-Star came a little too early because like there's not enough good resources in the discard pile. Because like I could see if you V-Starred after using the Prime Catcher, because at least you can get the Prime Catcher back, right? But
And I would
like
agree with that completely.
yeah, but when you Prime Catch when you V-Star a little too early, um, then you kind of run out of resources a lot faster, and there's no way to recover them, especially if you put away a lot of your important recovery cards like your super odds and stuff like that in there, because you can't get those back.
So, and that's kind of my question. So, we obviously get the E-switch, but do we need to get the Super Rod back? Because right now, this is our
Yeah.
lone Regidrago V-Star.
Yeah, I think you kind of have to. Yeah.
All right, so now we have the one E-switch. Do we
Okay.
have a grass in hand to attach?
I don't
We
think so.
don't.
Yeah. So he goes with the
So, okay.
pass here.
And so here's
Yeah.
my question, though. If you are passing, why use the V-Star?
Yeah, I think he thought he could do a little something a little different, but now Adam looks like he's gonna pass now because he wasn't able to get
Ooh.
V-Star. Yeah. See, now if you're drawing into the earthen vessel here, then it's like could have had that a little earlier.
Well, and listen, if y'all know why I hate on Lugia so much, Adam is demonstrating the highs and the lows of Lugia in this
Yeah.
tournament today.
Yes, definitely.
And this is normally what I'll see is you'll have a couple games where you'll just run over people, you'll high
Yeah.
roll a bit, you'll draw well, and then this will happen. And this knocks you out of tournaments.
Yeah, it really does.
All right,
That's
so
why,
then
yeah, I'm so impressed with Kieran because like he plays that deck so well.
he does. And if y'all want coaching on Lugia, Kieran's probably the guy to go to.
Yeah, he probably is.
All right, so we see this. And to be honest, Brian, I think you hold this hand.
Yeah, I think you hold the hand too. Yeah, the prime catcher is just too good. I wonder if he's going to go for the. Okay, he's going for the Dragapult. Okay.
Okay. I actually like that a lot. What do
Yeah,
you think of that play?
I like it too. Yeah. Okay, so that Legacy Energy, not bad.
This is really what it comes down to.
Yeah. Ooh, this might be a read the wind type play here,
I
which
think
isn't
it is.
which isn't all that bad because read the wind can draw 3 more cards. Oh, he's passing. No, read the wind.
And I mean, Alfredo's just got it then if he sees the play.
Yeah.
Yep, prime
Yeah.
catcher,
Yeah.
retreats, and then we see the Dragapult Phantom
Yeah.
dive.
Yeah.
And there we go.
There's the game. Dang. Wow.
Well, for those watching at home, don't play Lugia.
Yeah.
And Arctic, you're right. So, Brian, we talked a little bit about do you research to get the Lugia?
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of got burned by just going straight for Lugia there.
Yeah, and that kind of happens too because when you're trying to rely on I mean, I understand because like you want to have the clean board without the extra liability, but at the same time it's tough because you have to rely on a coin flip in order to get your deck going.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And all right, so we were talking about Miraidon a little bit today, and
Yeah.
now we get to see it Miraidon versus Raging Bull, which is a historically not a great matchup.
Yeah, it's tough because Miraidon usually hits for 220, 230 max, and would use like stuff like Iron Hands to prey on like smaller stuff. But I think into this kind of matchup, I think Miraidon's actually kind of fine.
So I think
Yeah.
with the advantage and with the inclusion of Area Zero, I think Miraidon's a whole lot better.
Yeah.
And also with Alec putting down so many single prizers, Miraidon's a whole lot better. But outside of that, this could still be pretty tough for Ryan.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like there's a lot of merit with this because Area Zero can help the Raikou take the easier knockouts onto the Raging Bolt, but yeah, Raging Bolt will still do Raging Bolt things, and when your deck relies on a lot of 2-prizers like Miraidon does, you'll usually take the knockouts pretty easily.
Agreed. And I like Alec putting down that Bravery Charm on the Ogerpon on the bench because now it doesn't become a target for Miraidon anymore.
Yeah, definitely.
And so what do you think? Because we're obviously going to see the knockout here. And Alec's going to take 2 prizes, go to 4 prizes remaining. I'm more curious, does Alec put down the Area Zero? Does he fill his bench? Does he just say, you're not going to knock down my Bolt? What do you think?
I think he's waiting for Ryan to put down the Area Zero.
Okay, so why is that?
I think he's waiting for Ryan to do it because I think Alex recognizing that that's the only way that the Raging Bolt gets knocked out is if Ryan's the one to put down the Area Zero.
And that makes sense. The downside for Alec having his bench full is that Ryan, with a Raikou down, now can still one-shot that Raging Bolt if Ryan just fills his board.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's definitely tough. Yeah.
Do we have a Raikou available?
I think Miraidon only is playing one Raikou now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Miraidon, I believe, is still not playing any recovery cards like a Stretcher or Rod, correct?
I think it's playing a one of Stretcher. I think the list that I've been testing is playing, I think, either one of Stretcher or one of Rod.
Okay, so there is a chance to get back that Raikou.
Yeah. I think the one of Stretcher is a little bit better because if you have to discard like the Magneton a little early, that could be like something that you can get off recovery.
Did we just hit... Oh, we hit a Generator Arven off of that Fez. That Generator's a big hit.
Yeah, definitely.
So then, Brian, walk us through this turn. Ryan has the Arven. I assume if there is a Stretcher, we're getting a Stretcher. Oh, Secret Box. I mean...
he's playing Rod.
Yeah, well, honestly, if we've got the Rod and a Nest Ball... Oh, not even Nest Ball. We have Miraidon. Dude, I think we're going to see a knockout with Raikou here if we hit one off that Generator.
Definitely. I can definitely see it.
And so it looks like Ryan has used his V-Star. So that's not going to be very helpful here.
Yeah, I don't know if there's another... Oh, okay, plays the Charm. So the Charm's
pretty good
too. Yeah.
All right. So then walk us through the sequence here. What are we discarding off Secret Box? What are we getting?
Probably discard an Energy or Arven, Mew, Nest Ball.
Yeah, I think getting rid of the Nest Ball is our call because you're going to be able to tandem unit out the Raikou.
Yeah.
And also getting rid of the energy, you're still going to get Rod back, so you can throw a couple back into the deck.
Yeah, and I think when you play two Generators, as long as you hit at least one, you'll be able to get the Raikou to attack, which is good.
And I think that's exactly it, is he needs to hit one to get the attack off with the Raikou.
Yeah. And then if he's able to hit on more than one, he's able to put something onto like the Iron Hands or something like that.
And I think it's actually going to be a choice between Raichu or Iron Hands, kind of from what you're saying.
Yeah.
But you're right. That's the tricky part with Miraidon is how do you set up for the follow-up? Because it bursts a ton of damage out, but then what do you do after that?
Definitely. Yeah, and I think we're trying to figure out what to do after that right now.
Yes. So we get the tool card, a stadium, an item card, and a supporter off the Secret Box.
Yes, super powerful card.
And so looks like we're going to get, the Rod, the stadium, the Forest Seal Stone, and then, Boss seems pretty good.
Boss seems like the only other thing you can kind of get unless you want another Arven. But Boss could be pretty good.
Yeah, I don't know if you care about Arven anymore.
Yeah,
because if you're going to be out of Generators, what else would you get?
Yeah, that's true.
All right, so we get the Boss. We are going to see what we can do here. Do you think we are just going for the Generator knockout on the Bolt, or is there a different plan?
So my original thought was like, if you're able to get onto the Iron Hands, you can try to bundle, but if he puts the Ogre Pond, then you can't really do it. So I think trying to set up the Raikou and potentially the Iron Hands can be like a good play. Or we tandem unit out the Raichu and we put all the energy that we generator and attach onto the Raichu, and that'll take our final 4 prizes.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So only getting 1 energy back off the Rod. What do you think of that?
I think it's fine as long as you recognize the amount of energy that you have in the deck still, you can see like what your chances are of hitting them off the Generators.
2 Boss does seem a little greedy in Miraidon, but you could say that people are going to throw out their attackers, which is plenty fine to knock out.
I don't know. Ever since I started playing 4 Boss in Lugia, I feel like 4 Boss feels so nice in all decks.
It's such a powerful card.
Yeah.
I am very intrigued to see what happens when it goes away eventually.
Yeah.
Because it will.
It will, yeah.
All right, so then Honestly, it sounds like we're just praying for a generator hit here.
Yep. Yeah, the prayer hands are coming up. Oh, he hits
Oh, we
2 off
got
the bottom.
2. Okay. I mean, that's a huge deal.
Yeah. And I do like separating them just because Ryan knows he has the attachment in hand already, so he'll be able to at least attach to one of them.
Yes, and it's more than likely going to be the Raikou with that bravery charm just to force a higher expenditure of resources from Alex's end.
Yep.
And keeping the Mew is great. We've already used our V-Star, so we can slap it on anybody.
Yeah.
Okay. So Ryan, as you can see, part of the Nerd Rage team and an incredibly good player, loves playing complicated, annoying decks. So it's kind of interesting seeing him sling some generators here.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, we get the knockout. Ryan goes to 2 prizes remaining. Alec has 4 and needs to find a way to take a knockout without losing the game next turn, which is tough.
Yeah. And interesting that goes with the other Ogre Pawn here, knowing that Ryan has Boss here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially because, in order for Alec to really attack here, he's going to have to play Sada.
Yeah.
So, why do you think Alec put down that other Ogre Pawn?
Yeah, I don't know. I probably just to have more energy to work with. Because he's going to need at least, 4 energy in order to...
He is going to need 4, which is a good point. So,
yeah.
But at the same time, why not just bench 2 Bolt?
That's true. Yeah, you could just go double Bolt. Unless you wanted to see more cards that way.
And that is true. Oh, we see Fez. I guess, and there's the other part of the logic. If you're already going to have to put something like Pheasantipity down, whatever.
Yeah.
All right, so we see Pheasantipity come down. What does Alec need to do the rest of this turn?
I think he just needs to shuffle and then kind of sequence it from there. I think you have to go like Fez. I think and then you can go like Noctowl. Noctowl can grab like Sada, and then you get Sada from there.
We do have Sada in hand,
Sada's
which is
in hand
nice for
already.
Alec.
Yeah.
And we have an Ultra Ball to get more, or excuse me, to get another Bolt. But if we bench the Lugia, or excuse me, the Latias, we can't get another Bolt down.
Yeah.
Oof.
Ooh.
So this is tough for Alec. I almost think we have to bench double Bolts, Sada, and just hope we hit it.
I think so.
No? Are we benching Latias? I don't know, Brian. This is kind of a tough position to be in for Alec.
Yeah, it is.
Because the win condition for Ryan, though, still requires 2 attachments.
Yes.
And so we still need to see a generator and a gust, and that is not a guarantee.
Yeah.
As you all can hear, my son Arlen is very displeased with the state of Alec's board state, so he's sharing his displeasure with us.
Yes.
All right, and like you said, he had Arizona in hand, no desire to play it down, force it to come out of Ryan since it helps him way more than Alec.
Yeah.
And now we're seeing, I gotta imagine, another Bolt.
Eyeing the Sandy Shocks. That's kind of interesting.
That is interesting. And now Alec doing the math. What do you think of that decision?
I don't know. I mean, the Sandy Shocks will get you the energy. Because I think you can attach to itself, right? As long as you have like 4 energy or like 4 prizes left or something like that.
It can, and he can also Sada to it because it is an ancient Pokemon.
Yeah, but I feel like that all it is just an easier 2 prize liability for
and I would agree.
Yeah.
But I do look at Ryan's board, and he needs to get to 4 energy on a Raichu anyway.
Yeah,
so
but if the Sandy Shocks comes down though, like as long as he's able to get attachments to Miraidon, he can just Photon Blast for win.
But he can already do that for Teal Mask or Fez.
Oh yeah, well the Teal Mask. Oh yeah, well one of the Teal Masks doesn't have the Bravery Charm.
Yeah, and I think that's the tricky part here is he's already kind of in a difficult position. So whether or not we have the Sandy Shocks or something else, this just makes his resources a little easier to manage.
Yeah.
All right, so we see the fighting energy come down the Sandy Shocks from that ability. I imagine we're going to see the retreat into the Raging Bolt.
Yeah.
And then Knockout.
Bolt. Yeah.
So we got the knockout. We're going to have to retreat. We have another Bravery Charm in hand. It's got kind of interesting, Brian.
Yeah, it definitely has. I mean, look at the board. There's so many cards on there.
I know.
Yeah, Area 0 is definitely
For those who played back in the day with Skyfield, it was a very similar experience.
Yeah.
Except for then you had Shaman, which was Crobat V on crack.
Yeah.
It was brutal. All right, so we're going to see the charm come down. And Brian, to be honest, I think putting on the active is exactly the right decision.
Yeah, I would agree too.
Because now it forces Ryan to hit Generator and Boss, or if he does Arven, hit a bunch of energy off Generator.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. We see the 4 energy come down. Raikou goes down. Alec gets a couple prizes, and now the onus is on Ryan to take a knockout here. So what do we see off the top?
Yeah. Arven.
It is an Arven. And so, correct me if you disagree, Brian. I think you got a Fez here to start.
Yeah, I think so too. Because before you pick which supporter you use for the turn, I think you need to figure out what cards you have to work with.
And really, I think that means, do you find a Generator?
Yeah.
And so I do agree, though, we're probably going to want to Ultra Ball to thin the deck.
Yeah.
I don't think we can feel confident going into Bundle. Ooh.
Bundle's fine here, I think.
I think it's a great choice.
Yeah.
And though, here's the question for Alec.
Yeah, because I think if anything besides, like, if any one prizer goes in, you just commit to the Iron Hands play.
Which still, either way, it requires 2 energy from Generator.
Yeah.
And yes, Blood Moon would be game-winning here.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I say that. It's still... Oh, yeah, it would be because you have energy in hand. Yeah, Blood Moon would have just
Adam just said in chat, here. Second lug was not it.
It was...
I'm sorry, Adam. I'm sorry.
I appreciate you recognizing that. All right, so we do see the Ogre Pond come up. Mew EX in the active. And then, yeah, I mean, Brian, I just want to see Ryan thin down his hand with this Ultra Ball.
Yeah, definitely.
Lumineon and fail.
Yeah. Let's see what you're working with. There's 2.
Oh, and I guess that's fine, too. Just saying you're not going to draw with Mew EX.
Yeah.
Okay, so we get the boss. We're going to Ultra Ball, thin the hand. Perfect, perfect. All things are moving beautifully. Yeah. And we have ratings. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we have outs to see more cards.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so Brian, keep talking us through. Like, what's Ryan trying to do here? Like, what is the right sequence?
Okay, so he used Fez already, correct?
He is not.
He is not. Okay, so we're thinning the hand out. We're gonna grab. I think we can use Radiant Greninja on like the double turbo energy, draw more cards. Fez, draw more cards. Hopefully a Generator scene there. And if we whiff that one, we can Arven for the other one.
Oh, and or so we are just going to go straight for the Arven. What do you think about that?
Ooh, I think it's a little risky.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I think it's very risky.
Yeah, because you don't, I mean, because like part of me is like, oh, it's great. You can see more cards before playing the Generator. But if you draw into all energy, it's just going to feel so bad.
I'm going to ask Ryan about that afterwards because I feel like you wanted to hold your supporter until the last minute there, right?
Yeah. Okay, I think they're talking it over right now. I think he's going to play the... Oh, man, I really wonder if you're supposed to Greninja here first.
No, I do think you Fez first.
You Fez first? Okay.
Yeah, you either Fez or Generate. It depends on how many more cards Ryan has in his deck to thin his deck.
Yeah.
If there aren't any more to thin, it's just whichever he wants.
Oh, he's just better.
The 2.
Just that's a skill difference.
Well, so and here's the issue: skill difference.
Yeah.
We use the Arven, so now we're locked in on the Raichu. Okay. So now we got to see if Fez lets us hit something. But the one advantage Ryan does have is there is no Latias on Alec's board. So if
Yeah.
Ryan decides he needs to, he can go to the Radiant Greninja for the turn.
You think he goes attach for turn, and then he can Mew, and then he can Fez and Greninja? Yeah.
Yes. I think that is exactly the sequence.
Yeah.
All right. We see the Ninja. Yep, getting rid of the double turbo. Don't need that anymore.
Okay.
Did we hit a generator there?
Oh, how many are
No,
these
we
with
didn't.
energy?
No,
Oh,
it's
none
fine.
of them are energy. Oh, the
We hit
generator.
a generator.
Oh, he hit it.
And we hit 2. There
Yeah.
we go. Ryan
Wow.
closes it out with
Masterclass.
2 generators for 2.
Yeah.
Dude, that is not the way you usually see it go with Rhydon of the last turn double generator. So, Brian, like, what do you think about that finish?
Yeah,
With
it was
Rhydon with bolts? That's not the result you expect.
yeah, it's a masterclass in sequencing, definitely.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, it kind of is. I don't know if I agree with that decision on Arvin versus Boss, but
Yeah.
what do I know?
Yeah, but I think the kind of theory about it was definitely there. You can definitely tell Ryan was kind of like battling between a couple of different decisions there and kind of going with what his gut feeling was based on the chances and the rates that you can kind of draw into those cards.
And I think there is something to be said about committing to that one line to increase the chances of that line being successful as much as possible, rather than trying to keep the option open between like the 2 different lines you could take.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it also kind of contributes to playing to win instead of playing not to lose.
Yes.
I think it's really important because he's committing to that play fully and doing it because he wants to win that turn and just so he doesn't put him in a winning position. It's a little different.
No, and I completely agree
Yeah.
that playing to win rather than playing to not lose is such an important thing to do.
Yeah.
Well, Brian, it has been awesome being back with you.
Yeah,
Thank you for having me
definitely.
back here.
Yeah, absolutely. I do like the setup. And let us know too what everyone in chat thinks of like this new like at-home setup. Did we sound okay? Do you like the cameras? Like, do you like us being able to kind of flash stuff on the screen? Give us your feedback. Let us know what you guys think, and we'll kind of work around that for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I appreciate all you guys being here, especially as we are trying this out for the first time. So looking forward to hopefully keeping improving the stream as we go forward.
Definitely.
Well, Brian, any last thoughts before we head out and call it for the day here?
Just thanks everybody for coming through and watching the stream today. We have our locals every Thursday at 6:30. So if you're in the area, come out to play. Otherwise, if you're not from the area, we'll still be running our stream here at 6:30. So come out and watch.
Absolutely. And I'll be talking a little more often because baby isn't mobile, but you know what? I can still talk while he's here. So like Brian said, thank you all very much for joining. It's been awesome having you here and awesome being back. Thank you, Murray. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll see you guys here next Thursday, right back here at Nerd Rage Gaming.